coverage. And everyone licking Anthony Richards' arsehole needs to stop.
We are now live as well. Oh, I love it.
This is the in-depth college football knowledge.
Florida are going to get humbled very quickly this season. I like them. College football is better when Florida are better, but I like Anthony Richardson, but no.
I tell you what, yeah, I know what you mean. But you've got an early matchup of potential Lions QBs going forward. They're playing Kentucky this week, aren't they? It's Levis versus Richardson.
Levis looked like ass in that first half.
Oh, that's not what I want to hear as someone who really wants to draft him just based on his physical makeup. But there we go.
He started really badly.
He's got no Chris Rodriguez with him. And he looks like... And no one's saying what's up with him.
He's done, I think, Chris Rodriguez. I think he'll be kicked off the team for good.
Hello to everyone. If you're joining us early, I thought we'd just kind of go live before we start here, and we're just talking about the college ball that happened in the past weekend. Thanks for joining us, and we'll kick off the show proper in just a minute. What was your game of the weekend, boys?
Backyard Brawl. That was sensational.
I watched the start of it, I think, but I can't remember.
The Pitt and West Virginia defensive lines just went absolutely crazy on one another. I mean, it was great. JT Daniels looked really good, took some big hits, kept playing. You know, it was such a fun game, and it was so heated and so intense, and you know, people were really getting stuck in. They're not playing each other since like 2009, I think it was, and it was like 13 years of pent-up aggression got like leathered into that game. It is one of the best games I've seen in a long time.
We still need a title for the episode, by the way, guys. If you've got any bright ideas.
Central Michigan with Oklahoma State was a fantastic game.
Oh, was that where Central Michigan came back and made it a game in the fourth quarter after being like 30 back or something?
They were 38 down and they only lost by 14. The Oklahoma State defense without Malcolm Rodriguez looks like trash. It does not look good. Central Michigan should not be scoring 44 points against you. But no, yeah, it was a fun game. They didn't give in.
Yeah, I'm just gutted because I've like picked two teams in the pick watch this week, and that was it. I've not even dreaded to go back and look at them. It was a bad week.
Just to let Steve and Tom know, we're live at the moment because we just thought, wow, we'll go live and then do the show proper in a bit. So if there's anything you don't want to say publicly, don't.
I mean, do say it. If there's anything you don't want to say publicly, say it.
I was trying to find something for my headphones, but I've lost it. So I missed that. What were you saying? What am I not meant to be saying publicly?
Well,
this is free speech.
Don't tell anyone your whereabouts, Tom. Don't reveal your secret mission you've been on for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah,
what's dropped? I'm completely
no. So we're live at the moment as a kind of pre-show type thing. So just
okay, there you go.
Hey, just
all my secrets were about to be poured out as we normally do before an episode. But
yeah, Special Agent Tom has been in Canada just doing some groundwork in Windsor for the lads.
Is it now we announce that we're becoming a true CFL podcast and ditching this NFL? It's never going to last.
I love the CFL. I don't know if anyone else watches it. Is it just me? I love the CFL.
I watched a bit of it in the summer. It was probably the low point of my summer. I was like, it's 3 a.m. What the fuck am I doing? Calgary against someone else?
I'm right in saying, are the Argonauts a team?
Yeah, Toronto.
Yeah. An ex-teammate plays for Toronto, but I'd be lying if I said I'd seen one of their games.
End zones are huge.
Say again?
The end zones are like 20 yards, aren't they?
20 yards. The field is 20 yards end zone. It's about 115-yard field, and they only play 3 downs. So if you're a defensive back, you're already at a massive disadvantage. It's a passing league completely.
Everyone seems to be in motion all the time.
Yes, they have slot backs. They don't have wide receivers. When the QB puts his arms forward, they go forward. They can't go past the line of scrimmage, but they're moving before the ball is snapped. So they've already got a run up on you. So being a defender is basically pointless in the CFL because you're already fucked.
Do they just not play man then as a result? Because like if a guy's
No,
running,
you just play zone.
Turn and go, yeah.
You just pass each other off and then try cover an end zone. That's not even rectangle either. It goes out and then it goes up. It's like a basketball court. So you can actually literally just throw it down the middle and it goes 30 yards.
Okay.
This goes for anyone in the chat here or anyone in the live chat watching us at the moment. Does anyone have a name for the show? Everyone knows that we kind of normally do puns on something that's happened this week. We don't have a name yet for the show. So something to do with cuts or Hard Knocks or, I don't know, the Laser Show returns or something boring like that.
We've got our newly coined edge pairing with Starsky and Hutch now, aren't we?
Is it Starsky and Hutch or is it... I'm
not using Charlesky sounds wrong.
No, Charlesky sounds wrong. Someone suggested something else earlier today, which I really liked. Lethal Weapon. I thought that was good.
Brian Matthews suggested the Brothers of Destruction. Wrestling one.
Nah.
Might take a while to catch on, like as long as it took Malik Willis to get drafted. Might take a while.
Thank you to Big Aries 70 who subscribed at tier 1. He's on an 8-month streak.
Hey Steve, I noticed how you've got other Ryan into retirement already. You notice you beat them and he's nowhere to be seen now that they've lost.
Liverpool fans last week, Arsenal fans this week. Be gone.
You say be gone, but we didn't make a massive deal of beating you for the last decade, so... It shows how far the relative teams have come that it's a big deal that you've beaten us for once.
It's amazing how they bounce back, isn't it? It's a bit like sort of what's that Japanese knotweed? You just can't fucking get rid of it. Last week he had nothing to say. Like nothing to say. He was almost cowed into silence. And now this week it's a measure of the size of the club. I mean, Ryan will probably be back full of beans next week, as though Arsenal have been world champions for the last 10 years.
The Premier League's for little boys. You need computers to make your decisions for you. Just go back to old school refereeing.
Yeah, come down to the non-league where your players ambush other players in the car park and put them in hospital. That's where it's at.
They're still playing in moulded studs.
Just going back to real football now, American football, and did you see the targeting play that I popped in the chat earlier? And hospital plays.
I will pay a Lions player to do that to Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, that
my
was
satisfaction.
And the number of people who were trying to claim that it's not football anymore, you can't, and it's like the guy's done a flying headbutt to the quarterback's head. Like,
yeah,
that's a full-on Glaswegian kiss. That is
30 years ago, it was fine, but he's going to get suspended at least 2 or 3 games. It has to be.
He looked like even watching the first half, though. I mean, highlights only, but it looked like he was showing up. And so, like, what is he doing? I mean, there are so many plays where you can say, like, if you're one of those people, football's gone soft kind of thing. That is not one of them. You can't just, like, deliver a flying headbutt to someone and be like, oh, is this not football anymore?
That is how the Scottish would play in the NFL, isn't it, Steve? The Glaswegian kiss. Just fucking nut him.
The nerds ask questions later.
Exactly.
The thing that was so stupid about that play, though, is he'd beaten his man, he got onto the quarterback, he was there to make the tackle, and then he jumped right at the last second. Like, just hit him. Him jumping actually slowed him down. Like, I didn't understand it at all. Right. Name, anyone?
Also, talking about Scotland and the North, I'm just going to say the North reigns. The Manchester Titans beat the London Warriors in Brit Bowl. East Kilbride Pirates. Scotland won the Division 1 championship as well. They bring me back to the Premiership. The North rules football again.
I watched some of that East Kilbride Pirates game. The standard was absolutely shocking.
Oh yeah, Cambridgeshire were dog shit. I'm sorry. It was bad.
Was it like watching the Chicago Bears offense, Steve?
They were playing on a Asda car park in Milton Keynes.
I mean, East Kilbride,
like watching the Bears,
one of the best teams in the whole nation. Their defense was one of the best in all of Britball this year, and I've played them. I've been to East Kilbride. It's a shit place to go and lose because it's about a 6-hour drive. But no, they absolutely dominated, and Manchester Titans dominated the Warriors too.
I was going to say
Could not believe it.
that was the big one. Like obviously Tamworth won recently, but it was an absolute clinic from the Titans. So love to see that. London Blitz under 19 still champions. Let's just get that out there. But definitely one for the northern teams in England.
Just all the Americans be frantically Googling the names of these places at the minute. Like, where the hell are these? These are like the back ends of Britain. These are Tamworth, freaking East Kilbride. Jesus.
Hey, Football Factory London Blitz. Bam Olaseni, I mean, he's about to tear up the league on no one's practice squad.
Has it not been picked up yet?
I don't think so, but...
Right, shall we do this?
I think he went back to the Raiders. I think the Raiders put him back on the practice squad.
All right.
Oh no. What's he done wrong in life?
Yeah.
The Raiders only take on bad ends, so he's done something wrong.
Right. I'm going to put this back to the intro screen and then we're going to go live. If that's cool with everyone. Just be 5-10 seconds of silence and then we'll go. All right, here we go.
Great pod, guys. Really short as well.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Lions UK podcast, episode 138, Sean Off. My name's Matthew Turner alongside my co-hosts Ryan McCluskey, Tom Wilkinson, Steve Collins, and Anthony Fitzpatrick. How you doing, boys?
Great.
Good. Not long.
One of you.
I'd be better if Liz Truss had not been appointed, but
we're not doing politics on this show.
He's a Cleveland Brown.
Kill the politics.
Oh yeah, we don't want to do politics on this show. Strictly no politics here. Just want to thank everyone in the chat for being along with us. If you've already here, you've seen that we've done a bit of a preamble in the last 20 minutes. That might become a regular feature. So if you want to hear us just chat about something or chat with us about things, and do get in on the chats early. We might be doing that from now on. Just a bit of housekeeping to start with. Discord channel, don't forget to get in on that, especially as the season's starting. It's going to be a great place to be. College football podcast, boys, and what a week one. What are you going to be talking about on Wednesday, Ant?
Week one. we're gonna be reviewing week one, like you say, some fantastic games on the schedule there. Some bad ones as well, but a lot more good than bad. We're going to preview week two as well. We'll update the pick watch leagues and all that. And then me and Ryan are also doing some sleeper teams, some guys you may not have heard of in the Power 5. We're going to bring them to your attention and spotlight them a little bit. So lots going on this week.
Just had some chat in there from Drew, who said he thought it was the normal podcast, and Ken said he thought it was cool. Agree, use it more. I love that. Don't forget to like the episode, sub to the podcast, give us a rating if you can. We did get a fresh one in. I'll recall that at the end of the show, but it was a really, really nice review we got on Apple Podcasts. Otherwise, Lions Nation Unite, don't forget to download the app, Herman Moore's project. He's got all the hobby podcast creators like ourselves and Micro Mike and Dose of Dion and Detroit Lions on the Prowl and all of those guys. Do download it. It's a great place to be for Lions content. And we're a Twitch affiliate. If you've got a Prime subscription, Amazon Prime subscription, you have a free sub to use every month. Puts about $2.50 in our pocket at no cost to you, but at every cost to Jeff Bezos. It's well worth your time. But it's time for us to get into the 53-man roster reaction, who made it, who didn't, and what we think about it, and Hard Knocks Episode 4. But first, a little bit of news from the last 7 days. And after the 53-man roster was announced, it was revealed that after the anticipated practice squad signings, of course every team probably expected to use all 16 spots, that the Lions were projected to be $4 million over the cap. That was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people, but the projected cap that we had at the start of everything didn't account for having 6 guys on PUP or injured reserve. So obviously all of their salaries are still there, and we have another 6 load of salaries on there to pay for too. So we project to be about $4 million over the cap. In response, the Lions have converted Taylor Decker's contract in a simple restructure. $6 million converted to a signing bonus, now split over the next 4 remaining years of his contract. That last year is a void year. So $6 million now split $1.5 million each over the 4 years, which means $4.5 million this year has been freed up. We are now projected to be under the cap. DT Benito Jones has been claimed on waivers from the Miami Dolphins. Quarterback Nate Subfeld has been signed as a free agent. He becomes quarterback 2. And kicker Aldrick Rosas returns to the Lions on the practice squad. How are you feeling about all of that, boys? A little bit to get through. Decker's restructure makes it even harder to trade him now. What a surprise.
The last 3 statements absolutely fill me with dread. Fat Rosas was a crap kicker. Nate Sudfeld is an absolute scrub. He has done absolutely nothing today. He's probably got about as many passing yards as Jack Fox. And that is no joke, and that is very worrying. So if he's QB2, I pray if anyone breathes on Jared Goff too hard, I'll send a SWAT team to their house. I'll make a phone call. I'll get the door kicked in. No, my TV gets switched off, like I say, because that season over. That is very worrying. I think our QB room has got worse, and I cannot believe I'm saying that.
Well, what would you have liked them to do out of interest? Just looking what else is out there. The fact Tim Boyle is back, which we'll come to, but there's just nothing out there. I mean, even Blau, the way he was treated, he obviously didn't want to come back to the Lions, not because there's issues in Detroit. More so, I'm sure he wanted a clean start. It's a graveyard out there for potential replacements.
Does that reflect on Kellen Mond?
Give a kid a go. I mean, give a kid out of college a go. At least they might have some developmental upside that you can get with them. These guys, you sort of already know what you're getting. Nate Sudfeld, you're getting very little, and it's not like he's going to change overnight. We're screwed without Goff either way, so it doesn't matter whether we've got we've had experienced reps backing up Stafford for years, and then Goff, we had Chase Daniel, we had all sorts of crap who couldn't help us win games. So just get a youngster out of college, see what you can do with them. There are lots of talented guys still out there who have been cut. You can go and get EJ Perry before he got back by the Jags. Go and see if you can get Anthony Brown or someone. Just something different. He ain't gonna win us a game.
The most ironic thing about this is Tim Boyle is like a fucking boomerang. Like, he keeps coming back. But the irony is, of course, that if Tim Boyle threw a boomerang, it wouldn't come back. It would be gone forever into the fucking long grass, because Tim Boyle is a walking interception. So I'm just like, surely there's someone better out there than that.
I'm just
and
looking
this is
down
the exact logic that you use with guys like Dan Skipper and co. There is someone better out there, and yet they keep making it back to our team. I know Ryan was pissed with the amount of guys who've come back on the practice squad, and I agree with him. There's too many guys who keep coming back and doing nothing for us. Let's just restart, get some fresh faces in, develop someone else, because we know that what we're getting with these guys is no good, and we know it's no good. So it's almost gross negligence just wanting to bring them back.
And you're absolutely right. We should bring in Jack Cohn. Sorry, Tom, you were going to say.
Well,
I'll take that instead.
Are we looking for a young, big, physical, developmental tackle? Because I know a guy out of London who might be able to do some damage.
I'll take that happily. I will take Bam here. Give him a go.
Has he ever played quarterback?
Can he throw a ball?
So, Cool Down Rat in the chat says Connor Sampson was a camp arm at quarterback, and apparently he did quite well while he was there, so I'm surprised we haven't had a look at that. Just a couple of bits to get to. Detroit versus Everybody has subscribed on YouTube. Thank you for that. I Can Help has followed and subscribed with Prime. Love to see it. Thank you for that, my man. There's a few guys, I'm looking through the list now, of unsigned quarterbacks as per Spot Rack, and I know this isn't updated 100% because Tim Boyle is still available according to it, but you do have a few older hands on here. Jeff Driscoll is available. What fun. Josh Rosen, if you want someone young.
I'll go and support the Bears if Driscoll comes back, and that ain't a joke.
But you say Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon is available. There is Anthony Gordon or Anthony Brown, either one. De'Eric King. Hey, we could do with a 5'8" quarterback. Is EJ Perry gone back to Jacksonville? Is he?
Yeah. I mean, Carson Strong's free. I know he won't really play this year, but if you take him on,
I'd love to go Carson Strong.
If you put him on your practice squad and redshirt him, then you are already, you're taking a shot at next year, but you're giving yourself more of an opportunity down the line. You're increasing your chances of landing on somebody. Even if he doesn't play this year, just keep him on the practice squad, get his knee healthy, get him playing. Then you might stumble across a high quality backup to go with someone next year, or Jared Goff if he balls out this year. Something like that, just not bringing the same old rubbish back there's a reason these guys bounce around the league, because no one wants them because they can't win a game. So at least try and do something a little bit drastic with it. Because like we said, we're screwed whether Goff goes down or not. This is not like we're making moves to try and protect this team if Goff goes down. We know we're going to lose without him. So, may as well build for the future if that's the way we're going to go about it, rather than just have a placeholder in who's going to be gone, maybe even before this season's done.
We can just get like the jugs machine and put it on a pair of casters and just... Would that not be better?
Is that legal? Could we use a jugs machine as quarterback?
Well, I'm trying.
Just someone to load it
up.
One
person to carry it, one person to just like drop balls in as you go. I mean, it sounds like a serious operation. We're gonna have to take 2 guys out of the line to do it. But why not?
It'd be a hell of a fantasy football player, that one. Jugs machine to Amon Ra would be the killer combo.
It's putting a new meaning on cannon for an arm, but never mind.
I know I'm cynical and can be blunt, but I saw 3 people on Twitter mention Mr. Kaepernick, and I had to refrain so hard from saying he's 37. He hasn't played nearly 6 years. He was shit in years before he left. Just stop it. Let it go. Let it lie. He is not quarterback anymore. So if anyone's out there thinking, oh, he's been done wrong, he has, yes, like say, but he is not ever playing football again. So just let it fucking lie, guys.
Right, should we move on to Hard Knocks? Let's move on to Hard Knocks. Episode 4 dropped in the States Tuesday last week, Thursday over here on Sky Sports, and on Friday on Game Pass. And, I mean, it was fairly stacked, but can I just say how, at the top of the show, how weird it was to know who was cut, but the show building up who might be cut. Like, knowing that Craig Reynolds had made it, knowing that Khalil Pemberton hadn't made it, like all of that sort of aspect, and knowing Abina Eze hadn't made it. It was kind of gut-wrenching. Like, it made it worse. Like, instead of it being dramatic, it was sad in parts, really. Did you guys get that feeling, as generally speaking?
I thought it was weird because even if we'd not known who was cut, they were acting like Craig Reynolds was ever going to be cut. Like, piss off. No, he won't. Like I said, he's challenging for running back 2 this year. There was never any single chance he was going anywhere, but they tried to create drama, making out like his roster spot was in jeopardy.
If you look back at the roster show we did 8 weeks ago, there were people on this panel that didn't have Craig Reynolds in their team. That's all I'm saying.
And I think that's where, because he's no household name, I can't remember, one of the beats put it out, but it's a reminder that this show is not for Lions fans. It's for football fans in general. So there's a whole bunch of storylines which we know, and obviously we know probably who's going to get cut, who's not, apart from there's probably 4 or 5 names in flux. But most people watching Hard Knocks are not Lions fans, and they're not following it kind of to the nth degree. So they don't know if Craig Reynolds is going to get cut or not, and they probably wanted to highlight someone who they knew was at least going to make it. I remember watching one a few years ago, and they basically, all the people they picked, like none of them made the team. And it was then that's not a great kind of character arc if they're trying to put things together. So,
I mean, talking about a character arc, this episode started with the aftermath of the Game 2 win against Indy, and it kind of completed Blau's redemption arc. So he kind of lost the game in Game 1, and then he came back in his final play in Game 2. He kind of got the touchdown at the end, and all the guys there congratulating him, especially the GM coming to him personally and saying he did a great job. That was kind of like a really nice feeling sort of arc there. And then it went straight into the sort of big collaborative meeting between all the coaches, all the assistant coaches, the coordinators, talking about where they were going to be going into the final week, who they were liking, who they weren't liking. Everyone was kind of feeling themselves out in terms of where they were, going to the final week, really kind of trying to put these guys into pots. And then later on, Dan alluded to basically exactly what they'd been talking about, that there were two groups of people on the bubble. The dependable people who potentially were limited in quality, but you knew that they could do exactly what you asked of them every single time. And all they had to do was do that again, prove to them that they could still be dependable, and they're going to push the guys in the other pot as hard as they possibly could. And the other pot of guys were those guys with a little bit of something extra, a little bit of quality, but aren't dependable. And I think you maybe saw the people in these pots be emblemized by Tom Kennedy as the dependable guy, and perhaps Trinity Benson, Khalil Pimpleton as the not too dependable guys with a lot of upside. I don't know if you guys kind of felt similarly along those lines of perhaps who was in one pot and who was in the other. Hindsight's always quite easy with this, but of course with Benson and with Kennedy, neither made it. So I find it kind of interesting that there were people from both camps not making it in terms of that. So how did you guys feel about the whole thing? Because Holmes has always gone on about this collaborative approach, but we saw it very much at work several times in this episode.
I mean, with Pimpleton, he dropped a touchdown. That, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how talented you are in the world, if it gets to the game on the line and Blau put the ball where it needed to be, and he spent the whole game batting himself on the helmet saying, come on, and he's geeing himself up. And then when he has it in his sights and it's there on a plate for him, he don't deliver. It was never a surprise, all right? They were always going to cut him. Like I say, he's talented, but he made mental errors. So unfortunately, that is something you just can't work with, unfortunately. That's where, like I say, Kennedy, on the other side, dependable, but safe option. You know his ceiling. He's a good pre-season, he's a good scout kind of guy, but against the ones and against the pro athletes in the NFL on game days, he just won't show up. He will go missing and he will get carried. But as a pre-season warrior, fantastic. So yeah, you had both sides of it there. Neither of them made it, and you knew why they weren't going to make it.
Can I just say, first of all, that the David Blair redemption arc has got the same trajectory as one of those Red Bull Flugtag things when they get like the cardboard cars and throw them off a pier. I mean, you could see where the David Blair redemption arc was nosediving towards, because we've seen it over and over again. I think the way that the kind of Hard Knocks built up some of those cuts, there was enough tape in terms of like the preseason games and the footage. I mean, Eze just became a human turnstile at the end of that last game he played. So I don't think it was any surprise to anyone he got cut. And it was almost as though maybe a bit more before they were kind of showing the exact reasons why players were getting cut, rather than it just being a kind of like emotional decision, or, it was all kind of predetermined. They kind of like, look, here's the guy on the field. He's not cutting it. And Ryan's like spot on. It's all very well. If you can't do it against the third string in a practice game with relatively no pressure, you're not going to do it week one against the Eagles if we're up against it in the fourth quarter.
I know they said that obviously it's a collaborative effort here. I was surprised just how much collaboration went into it. Like they said, they at first they sit down with the positional coaches, all those guys, and they talk to them about all the guys there. Then they go to the senior guys like Ken Dorsey, and they have separate ones with him, and they chat about him. And then Campbell and Holmes do it themselves. And, as much as you like having that, I think there is a danger sometimes that there can almost be too much collaboration. I think some of these could be a lot more simpler than they're made out to be. Because when you think about it, positional coaches, they're with the players every day. They form strong bonds with the players. There might be those arguing for them to stay on, and then you get guys like Dorsey now who are just sat back, who are neutral, who are watching all this, looking at it from that point of view. And then you're going up to the head coach and Brad Holmes, and you're giving them all this information. It's just a data dump down there on them. It's like, well, what do you really make of it at the end of the day? Sometimes, I don't know, I feel like it was a bit too complicated for my liking there. I would like it to be a bit more simplified as to how they go about the business with it all. It's just me personally. It might be right, but I thought it was a little too complicated. As for the types of players who were in, like you said, some of the hardworking guys got caught, some of the more talented and maybe not so hardworking guys got caught. I mean, you have to strike a balance. at the end of the day, you ain't going to win Super Bowls with dependable guys who have no talent. So I think they're the ones who are going to be in danger the most all the time. But you've got to strike a balance of having enough of those guys around to have an effect on the ones who maybe aren't pulling their weight all the time. But it didn't surprise me to see a little bit of both went, and they've kept a little bit of both probably at the same time. Probably is the best way to establish a balanced team.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Looking at the rest of what happened here, we had the self-led practice, which, you know, we only saw a very small amount of. But I thought it was quite interesting how the players just kind of all fell into line and it actually looked quite professional. They were perhaps joking around a little bit more than they might have got away with the coaches being there. But all in all, they lined up to do drills. The kind of 7-on-7, 11-on-11 stuff they did looked just like if the coaches had been there. And if it was meant to be a test by Dan Campbell for these guys to take responsibility for themselves, to take ownership of the team and really feel like they're valued in their opinions, and, you know, that they're taking ownership of the wins and losses, that they perhaps passed that test. We didn't get much, but did you guys, Steve, did you take anything from that?
To say, I don't know. Maybe someone else wants to have a go at that one, because I'm not really sure. I've got a strong opinion either way.
I thought it was a little gimmicky. Sounds too disrespectful, but I'm not sure that the actual players would have got a huge amount out of it. In that they've been to enough practice sessions. Like when you see things like them just putting out the cones to represent an O-line, I'm like, how much is that really helping? Now, if it was because they wanted the coaching staff, did they want actually to try and get the coaching staff with dedicated time without the players to go through the habit of actually scheming for week one and go through that in a more collaborative, sorry, not for week one, for the preseason game, and go through almost a preseason version of scheming for a team, then fine. I can't imagine that the players walked out of it thinking, oh, I got lots out of today. I think it was just that it was an easy way to give guys a bit of a runaround. But I could be wrong.
I agree.
You know, at school when like you get, you know, the PE teacher tells you that you're running it, and basically all you've got to do is not dick about, because they're just looking for people who use the opportunity to dick about. And it seemed like it was just a bit contrived to me. I thought that was one of the few moments in Hard Knocks where you just think, yeah, that this is a bit of a setup here.
It felt very amateur. It felt like when a coach tells me to take the DBs before a game and run drills, and then what do? You do back pedal squares because I'm a bit tired. Like I said, it felt lazy, and I don't see what's on game from it. Some of the players went out there and were looking at each other like, well, what the fuck are we supposed to do? What do you want me to do? Like, just give me a drill. When they were there, like, it was like one of the guys said, like, yeah, just run whatever route you want. Like, really? Do you really get out from that? Like, say, no, I won't feeling it. And it felt like content.
I don't think that is, like, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, because it was clearly like they don't have formal, well, they do have formal rest days, but they didn't want to do a heavy practice. It was clearly intended to be something light, but the show was making it seem like it was this real test of leadership, and I was just like, no, I just don't see that.
No, we've got a game coming up against an incredibly tough opponent. I want to see the guys out there grinding and the coaches out there trying to fathom everything out. You know, I don't want to see this practice where there's no one out there and they're kind of just doing what they want to do. It seemed like they were doing it professionally enough, but I feel that, you know, we as a team, we need to be more professional going into this season. You know, we need to be out there doing the drills. The coaches need to be out there, you know, out there teaching guys, getting everything ready, getting us as prepared as we can be, because the Eagles are an incredibly tough test this weekend coming, and, you know, you need every single practice to go perfect, you know, for these guys to develop, for these guys to get match ready. And, you know, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I know the players enjoyed it, but, you know, if we get a hammer in this weekend, then it might come under a bit more scrutiny.
I got 2 points on this, and it's the reason why I pretty much disagree with all four of you, which I wasn't expecting. But Ant mentioned the Eagles, and I just want to get this in now. I was going to say it at the top of the show, but our Thursday shows are coming back. They're starting this Thursday. It's the preview show for the Eagles game, and we do have the British and Irish Eagles, their podcast, which is called, I think, Next Man Up. They'll be coming on the show to preview the game. We're also going on their show on Wednesday, so if you want to check either of those out, then please do. I'll try and send out the links as I get them for the Eagles show, and then they'll be on with us on Thursday, same time as this. So if you want to check that out, please do. Not joint practices, self-led practice. Two things that I really wanted to see from this that I really thought was actually achieved. The first was, too often in this game, I have seen players who are exceptionally good at following instructions and not good at understanding why they are following them. And sometimes the coaches, even the guys that have played in this league, are far enough removed from what it's like to be a player that sometimes they just don't relate to these guys as much as someone in their own age bracket. And having it explained by someone who understands it in their position group, say Malcolm Rodriguez, who seems to have a very good handle on how to play linebacker even as a rookie, compared to some of our linebackers who have never figured the damn thing out. You know, if it's explained to them by guys in their own peer group, that potentially they might get through to them in a way that we might not have seen before. So it may look exceptionally similar to what we've seen with coaches, and they may not have learned anything if they already have a handle on it. But it does give an opportunity for teaching from a different angle. That was the first thing I thought it might bring. The second one, potentially more important, which actually David Duncan put in the chat, but I was thinking about doing that, saying this anyway, which was, you could see from the meetings that they were having an incredibly hard time cutting it down to 53, that they were agonizing over decisions because it was actually hard this year. Last year was not tough to get down to 53, but this year it was. And sometimes it's about whether you're dependable or not. Sometimes it's about whether you have that extra bit of quality. But for some of these guys, I think that the qualifier might have been buy-in, or might have been care, giving a shit about what's actually going on, or just basically understanding how to play the game. So even if the production is the same, okay, but we think we might go somewhere with this guy because he's got it upstairs. And this maybe just sorts the wheat from the chaff on that sort of 53-man line. And right at the bottom of the roster, I think it might have been a really, really good distinguishing point. So maybe for the top guys, the starters, maybe it's not doing anything. But for the rest of those guys, I thought it was very important.
Do you not think, though, that the people who would have been running the drills for the most part would be those vets in the locker room who are the position group leaders anyway? And so actually it wouldn't tell you enough about number 53 versus 54. And also, if, let's just say, who made it? Chase Lucas, for example, new guy on the team, definitely a bubble guy who made the team and AJ Parker didn't. Let's just say that during that self-practice, he really stepped up. I'd kind of question why he wasn't more vocal through the other 20 plus days of camp, because obviously if it's just a bunch of guys, like I would worry about the energy in the team if it was, especially given the coaches, we've got highly energetic coaches and then lots of people just nodding. I'd expect there to be coaching within the position groups, challenge from the position groups, etc. throughout all of this. So I just don't think it would be that different. Now, the problem is we have no idea because understandably they don't show us that level of depth. And it was kind of, the footage they actually showed on Hard Knocks wasn't great. It was like, say, just people putting out cones and Dan Campbell looking around and kind of talking to himself. So you can't really take too much away from it. It would have been a good one to get some media there, which again, they wouldn't have done, but just to like get a feel for what they thought it might have added, because otherwise we're just guessing, I guess.
Yeah, I'm with Tom. If Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are in office going, oh, you know what, let's put him on the roster because he showed up when the coaches weren't around, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not sure on that one. You've had a whole summer to prove your case here, and if it's coming down to one session where there's no coaches around, I mean, there's a reason this isn't done league-wide. This isn't like a Super Bowl winning formula that other teams do and do often.
But I'm not trying to say that either. I think that's straw manning my argument a little bit.
Is it not though? That you know.
But I think this is part of the Dan Campbell experience. It's going to be gimmicky for good and for bad. Kneecaps from day one, and even the whole kind of getting the flower out the jeans stuff is going to be like this. And that's where you've got to have confidence the team is really with him, because there's so much of this slightly odd shit for a head coach. It would be so easy for a team to switch off if they weren't on board and be like, this guy is a complete joke. It doesn't seem like anyone's like that. So I think you just take these slightly more gimmicky things as part of the ride. And as long as the team isn't going against it, and there's no indication they are, then it's fine. I just don't think I don't think it's a really positive storyline. I just think it's a bit of a neutral storyline.
Fair enough. All right, let's just rattle on through this and we'll get to the 53-man roster. So the rest of what was in Hard Knocks, we saw JG's clothing line, the intern proposing to be his best man. You saw Kristen Harper, JG's girlfriend, fiance, making an appearance. I know that was particularly popular with Lions fans, but no comment here. Craig Reynolds was featured, and especially whether he was making the roster, they spoke specifically about him and the sort of agonising wait, as Dan Campbell said, is anyone going to miss him? And no one spoke up for like 3 seconds, and then everyone lumbered in with, no, you can't cut him. Like, I think the wait was perhaps misinterpreted as like everyone going, are you seriously suggesting we cut Craig? Because that's a ridiculous thing to say. But where I think it was almost framed as a sort of, I'm not sure, but maybe he should stay. And I just don't think that was how that conversation was going at all. You saw how fun that Dan Campbell's keeping it and how light. They had a meeting and they showed a video of someone's elastic being snapped in that sort of running drill that they were doing with 2 guys attached to each other, and how painful that looked, and replaying it again and again, finding new angles in which to laugh about it. Pimpleton not juggling knives. Dan kind of longingly, agonizingly staring at the roster whiteboard as he's trying to figure out who to keep around. Then you saw Ben Johnson in his offensive meeting, breaking down what they did well in the previous day, where they absolutely destroyed the defense and AG just didn't want to even talk to him, but also briefing him on the fact that the defense are going to be rebounding today. They're going to feel like they've got something to prove and to be ready for the inevitable blowback, much as you would do, I guess, if you were prepping for an opposition side who's just coming off a loss. A very, very similar sort of vibe to that, I think. The 11 on 11s then came straight after that, and it looked fairly even from what we saw on the TV shots. Touchdown was thrown, but several sacks also came with Hutch and Malcolm showing up. This was the hardest training session of camp, if you believe the voiceover. But Hutch looked properly like out of it by the end of that session. It was impressive how tired he was, given how relentless his motor is meant to be. It looked like they really, really worked him hard. We then saw Rodrigo with his family in the hotel room, revealing that he's going to be starting with the ones, and he's excited to play against Najee Harris. And it's like, yeah, there's going to be some high-profile guys, man, but okay, he's someone that you've kind of looked up to in your career. That's cool. And then as soon as the game is over, the game happens, and we all know what happened in that game. And then MCDC cut to him at the front of the bus, looking like he's about to cry on the bus because he's like cutting some guys from the front of the team bus as it drives back to the airport. It's like, I'm not sure that's how it went down, but people got cut very early on the next day, so it happened pretty swiftly. And you saw as they got home that Dan had assembled all of his staff pretty much straight away to tell them what the 53 was and their reactions to it. So that's the rest of what happened in the show. Is there anything that anyone wants to bring up from all of that?
Go on, Tom.
Steve. Go on.
I was going to say, I think the thing that pleased me most was, like, you could see how pissed Aaron Glenn was. And, like, we've all talked about our worries for the season. And I think while all of us are somewhere on a curve that's more upward than the David Blau redemption curve in terms of our offense, I think all of us have got that fear about the defense. And the fact that Aaron Glenn very much seemed to be laying a message down that he was not accepting mediocrity. He was not accepting people to be, bullied on the defense. That's kind of what I want to see this year. I want to see that, and I want to see that translate to the field. But like, that kind of gave me a bit of reassurance, just because you could see how genuinely pissed he was.
I mean, his own career's on the line, if you think about it. People are talking about him as a potential head coach in the making and that. But if our defense sucks again this year, that credibility's gone. He won't get near a head coach job for some time. So I know from a professional standpoint, he wants here to be good in Detroit and he wants them to be the best in themselves. But I think, that he's also thinking a little bit about himself, as he will do. And he's like, Christ, this is not good enough. How am I going to be able to take a bigger leap forward in my own career if I can't get this defense running? I've got some good weapons here now. I've been backed a little bit, put some guys back. This needs to be better, full stop.
Give me every piece of Aaron Glenn content there is. I feel like whenever he's on screen, Dan Campbell's obviously the star of the show, but every time Glenn comes up, I'm there thinking he's the guy naturally I feel like I get tied to more easily. I love how he speaks, love how he talks about the game, love how he interviews. So the more AG content, the better. My only other takeaway, and I've just gone back to check that I wasn't imagining things, during that kind of toughest practice ever, there's they have that little like Hutch montage before he gets really tired, his kind of like full speed montage. So I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was Myles Garrett, this play of his went viral because it basically just looked like he teleported on a twist inside. I'll try and dig it out and we can share it. But there's a play where Hutch basically fakes a rush on the outside, stunts inside, and he literally just like goes straight past two people. He doesn't like the balls come out, it's no big deal, but that was like one of the things you see during these practices. You're like, ooh, when they talk about how he's an even better athlete than they thought during the draft process, you see stuff like that, and it's exciting. So,
and he basically pulled that off in the game as well. The very first rep you see from the game, he beats his man and says, "You're lucky, you're lucky," and it was basically a similar sort of rep. So,
yeah. For anyone on Game Pass, 26:40, I think is it. I've just checked, but it's pretty cool. I'll be honest.
I must say, one of the other things I thought after the Pittsburgh game, I don't know, this might just be me, but I was a bit annoyed that Dan Campbell didn't show more emotion in that. He seemed like afterwards he's gone, "Oh, well done." I know he's a player's coach and that. And he was like, "Oh, well done. You've tried so hard, etc." They were awful that game. The offense was atrocious and a lot of players let themselves down. And how he wasn't there, ripping the hell out of them, really expressing emotion. You want to be here, you want to play well, but you didn't see none of that. And I get that he is a player's coach, but there has to be a line where they let him down that day. The offense let him down, even though all that stuff where they did the Blau redemption arc. Oh yeah, it's great, and then it's like it cuts to the final score. Oh yeah, 6-19 or whatever. It's just like, oh wait, they were pretty shocking then, weren't they? You did all this stuff trying to make Blau like a world beater and everything. So many players let him down that day, and he didn't get angry about it, and that annoyed me. I was really waiting to see him drop the hammer and go, right, that's it. Some of you have lost your chance. That's your fault. You're done. That will not be accepted here in Detroit. We expect better of you. But it was just all kind of, yeah, well done. Thanks for trying, etc., etc. I didn't like that.
I think he was very conscious of the fact that he was going to be cutting a lot of the guys tomorrow. And
it happens.
I know
Shit
it happens
in this league.
Of course it does.
But
I don't think he wanted to be like don't shut the door on your way out sort of like reaction to it. I get the guys who are going to be remaining. Yeah. I felt like it was out of character for him, for sure.
It was an awful game. It really. I mean, the defense did really well. That's fine. A lot of the defense did well, but that offense was pure, straight up trash, and a lot of players were playing for their future here. And they didn't. And I would like to have seen a lot more emotion from him during it.
So, Fly Odd Condors just said in the Twitch chat something which I think pertains to this, basically, which was effectively, first two games, his words spoke for themselves. But in that moment, that was the last day of evaluation, his actions spoke the loudest. You could see how disappointed he was even while praising the effort that they had put in. You could see that he was pretty gutted by what had happened. He just wasn't having a go at them for it. But I feel what he's trying to say here in terms of just like, you look pretty resigned to it and basically like, I know you guys tried all you could and it wasn't enough, so on your bike sort of thing. That's like kind of the bit in parentheses that isn't said there,
I don't know. I just feel like the standards have to get set higher this year. There's no more, oh, you played well, but you didn't do well. That's not going to cut it during the season. That's not going to cut it against the Eagles. It's not going to be like, oh, well, you played well, you tried your best. I want to see him get mad. I want to see him make demands. I want to see, when there's reason to be. Obviously, when there's not reason to be, don't be a douche all the time. But just on those occasions that call for it, you have to show that, there is a line that when you cross, you'll damn well know about it.
Yeah. Right. Shall we move it on to the 53-man roster, lads? So, I'm going to take this position by position just so we can see who's made it and who hasn't in each position group. So this isn't just focusing on the Monday and Tuesday of cuts. This is everything in accumulation from then till now. Who was there, who is not there anymore, and who is now there. So, if we start with quarterback, we had 3 guys in the room with Goff, Blau, and Boyle. Only Goff remains from those 3. Boyle is now signed to the practice squad as of today. David Blau cut and expected to re-sign with us on the practice squad, but actually signed with the Vikings practice squad. And we did bring on, as Ryan so eloquently stated, we brought on Nate Sudfeld, who I think we've articulated how he feels about him already. But what do you feel about that room, boys? We were all kind of really, and even Pride of Detroit had an article out saying maybe it's the best thing for both of these guys to move on, but they actually went and did it. I'm shocked that they went and did it. Like, I thought that one would at least survive.
I mean, Boyle were cut after the interception. Dan literally said, "What the fuck was that?" That was the moment. That was the moment he cut him there. Then he should have got Boyle off the field and said, "You know what? You cut. Go sit on the fucking bus." Should have just cut him there and then. Blau, they did that whole Blau is hurt, he's going to throw a game winner, like Stafford against Cleveland, when he came off "Oh, I'm all right, Blau was like, oh, I'm limping, but I'm going to carry on for you guys. Went tits up, like say, it didn't work. I think Blau he felt let down. I think he felt like he'd done enough, like he'd shown enough heart to make the roster. I don't think he would have returned to Detroit, even with an offer from Minnesota. I think he had made the decision that I'm not going back. I need to be somewhere else. And as much as I like him, and as much as he's been very up and down, given the choice, if I had to choose right now, I would have Blau, but that's just not a situation it is. So where I see it now is we've got Jared Goff, we've got the guy who gets him his coffee, and we've got the guy that helps him puts his pads on. That's it. We've got 1 quarterback and 2 basically other guys, like I said. So touching wood, nothing ever happens to Jared Goff. But yeah, on paper, it's one of maybe the worst quarterback room in the league for depth, possibly. I don't know. Tell me another one that's worse.
So I can't tell you another one that's worse off the top of my head. I think the fact that you've still got teams who are starting quarterbacks that you wouldn't really want, and a lot I would have easily had Goff in that tier last year. I think we're more positive this year. There's just not enough quarterbacks to go around. I mean, who are the really good backups? The guys who you think actually, if they came onto the Lions, would win 3 or 4 games. I just don't think the guys are out there with a roster like we have, which is more talented again than last year, but not a team where you're really going to have guys who will elevate a quarterback. I don't think, or elevate really a team beyond that. I don't think there's anyone out there who's really going to make a difference if Goff goes down.
But off the top of my head, I think the 3 backups that are the best are probably Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, Drew Lock is probably up there, but I hate it. And I had someone else that I was going to say, and they're all Tyler Huntley, and they're all rubbish.
Garoppolo.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay,
right. That's the point. When you go for all these mid guys around the league who just don't cut, you're not going to get out. When was the last time a backup won a game in Detroit? I am thinking a very, very, very long time ago, because we've gone with vets, these mid vets who are no good. Just go young. Get a guy out of college who's got a point to prove. Develop him. Hope that you don't have to play him, but you've got something with a point to prove. Not one of these guys just looking for a paycheck. That's all Sudfeld is, and it's all Blau and Boyle are. There's these guys who might be able to hold a clipboard and earn a paycheck, but they will do it for you on the team. So, go young somewhere. But at the end of the day, I'm done talking about a lot of them. I know everyone's fed up of it. I'm fed up of it. None of them are any good. Just hope Goff stays fit. Outside of that, we've got no chance with any of these guys here.
And if you just not to get onto tanking before we even have week 1 of the season, but let's be honest, if Goff goes down,
we're picking 1-1.
Exactly. I'm happy with us winning 0 games and taking our pick of the guys coming through. So, I mean, let's hope it doesn't come to that. And obviously, we've all got higher hopes than that, but it is what it is if we've got a backup in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's situational, isn't it? Because, I mean, all week people have been slating the 49ers for paying Garoppolo. But let's not forget, this is the guy that knocked the Packers out of the playoffs last year. I mean, like, I know it was the Green Bay special teams that finally did for them, but Garoppolo went down the field in January at Lambeau in that hostile environment and drove for 40 yards and got them in field goal position. So that's what you get when you pay, a backup QB. But I mean, the Bears, who've they got? Trevor Siemian. Like, if you don't have the roster to challenge, I completely agree with Ant. Go young, developmental. There's no point having a veteran just sat there. Like, and that's where someone like Atlanta are going to do really well with Desmond Ridder, like this year. And maybe that's where we should have invested. What was he, a 3rd round pick, Ridder?
Ridder was a 3rd. Howe was the 1st pick in the 5th. That would have been very acceptable to me. But yeah. Right, let's move it on to the running backs. And we had 3 survivors in Swift, Williams, and Reynolds, and 3 people who left us in some form or fashion. Godwin, Igwebuike, Justin Jackson now on the practice squad, and Jermar Jefferson made it, was waived, and is now then on the practice squad. Some surprise, perhaps, that Jermar made it and then was waived. It does seem like this was kind of part of a coordinated plan now after the event, but at the time it was quite surprising. And Justin Jackson, I think a lot of people thought he was going to make it.
They agreed. They had an agreement with him. I think that was just one of those transactional moves. He was a veteran, Justin Jackson. It's like they didn't need to go through waivers. They were literally just going to say, you'll come back when we make a space for you on pop. So that was fine. I was fine as long as Godwin got binned off. I didn't care a return. So we made the best. We've kept the best backs. Godwin's total liability. And there's a reason he's not been picked up.
Yeah. And, we've got 2 good backup options on the practice squad now if the front 3 go down injured. So, we kind of a win here. We've got the depth, but we didn't have to use the 53-man roster spots to guarantee that depth. So I know we were all thinking 5. Some even pontificated maybe 6, if you're going to hide like a receiver on there and put them as a running back, whatever. So, you've got 3 good running backs on your roster. You've got Jermar and Jackson who can both come in off the practice squad and make plays for you, and you can develop them both while you're waiting. So, all win for us. I think there's no surprises there. I'm with Ryan. I'm glad Godwin's gone.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Steve?
I think Godwin's had all of his chances and fumbled them away. I think Jefferson, probably they've just not quite seen enough of, and they want to take another year to have a look at him. I'm totally down with the decision to Craig Reynolds. I think has just absolutely made it his own. And I think Justin Jackson has obviously looked pretty lively in pre-season. And again, they probably want a longer look at him. But I think where we are is absolutely fine.
Every single player on the 90-man roster, when it was a 90-man roster, I thought had a legitimate shot of making the team. Now, some of them had a lot of a longer shot than others, but I thought all of them had a genuine shot to make it until Godwin got cut. And the reason for that is, I don't know what happened in camp with him. I never heard particularly anything bad. I didn't hear much good either. But he didn't get a chance at all in the games to return the ball, which, as far as we were led to believe, was his job. He was the starting returner and potentially the last guy in the depth chart in the running back room. So, when it came to returning, they basically gave everyone else a chance and said, we know what we have in him. And what a lot of people read from that was, we are happy having him as a specialist returner. He's going to be the guy unless someone beats him. And, Maurice Alexander is on the practice squad, and he's probably the guy who probably won the job. But he didn't make the roster either. So it's especially interesting to me that Godwin didn't make it. It kind of says to me that he never really had a chance to make this team. Because they were giving everyone a chance to try and beat him.
I think so. Slightly in that I don't think it was his... I don't think he lost the job as such, in that I think he could well have been one of the later guys off the roster. But with Demetrius Taylor showing out, with Stenberg taking steps in the last couple of games, I think they realized they had too many players that they wanted as football players, and therefore they didn't have the spots for someone like Godwin. So I reckon 2 weeks before cuts, they probably did think he was there and they didn't need to see what he could do. They felt good about it. But then fundamentally, better football players came and took his spot on the roster. And that's why we have 3 running backs when, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like last year we had 5 going into the season, including
plus Kabinda, yeah.
Yeah, but as in, like, we didn't have the spots there. Suddenly, if you want to keep a DT, if you want to keep a Stenberg, you've got to cut some of these guys. So I think it's as much, it wasn't his fault as such, and that, yes, he didn't get the opportunities, but I think it was more other players went and took it rather than he didn't have a chance.
I'm with Tom on this because, I mean, don't forget, we were the team who didn't bother to go after Jamal Agnew again. And now his thing was returning, but he was just never good enough at anything else to justify having a spot on the roster over other football players who could do things. And, you know, Godwin's fate was still, if Jamal Agnew couldn't get a contract on this team, then Godwin was never going to. Because, I mean, what does he bring? You know, he's all right as a running back, but he doesn't take too many snaps there. They're just rotational, you know. You can get something else. Maurice Alexander came in here and, you know, did better. You know, and he'd been playing USFL or something. He's not had a break. He's not had time off. He's just kept going and going and going and going and going. There comes a point where you have to take players who are talented football-wise in a starting team and better than anything, just than bits of special teams. And it's good this year that we've jettisoned a lot of these guys who are only good at special teams and not much else, you know, because you need a roster where you're good at special teams and contribute to the team as well. Godwin just didn't.
Fair play. Right, let's move this on to the wide receiver position. 5 people remain, and it looks like Ant was proved right after all. DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, Amon St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, and Quintez Cephas make it. 4 did not. Maurice Alexander's on the practice squad. Trinity Benson waived with an injury designation. Khalil Pimpleton didn't make it, and Tom Kennedy did make it back to the practice squad, the pre-season hero, 3-time MVP. How are you guys feeling about the wide receiver room? Again, a room that perhaps we thought could be 6 or 7 names potentially if they wanted to go that direction. And they only kept 5 out of the 9. A bit surprising. And Benson being waived with an injury designation, despite the fact that he played the last offensive series and didn't go off with an injury, was especially surprising. Steve, what did you make of the wide receiver room?
They made the right choice, and I'm happy with where they've come out. I don't think Benson did enough. Pimpleton, like I said, the guy's got a great set of jets on him, but you know he's got to catch the ball. And Tom Kennedy, you know, is a great preseason warrior, but he's just not going to get open against first-string players in an NFL game. I always thought Cephas has got enough talent and showed what he could do last year and should be on the roster. I think Khalif Raymond will probably get cut as soon as Jameson Williams is available. You know, when you think about where we were last year with like Perriman, you know, and just like a kind of handful of like no names in the wide receiver room. This is before St. Brown kind of emerged. We're in such a better place. So for me, I'm quite happy with this.
Ryan?
Yeah. Got to agree. I think the most logical decision happened. Like you say, Pimpleton probably should have spent more time practicing catching footballs and pissing about juggling. Like you say, that pissed me off. Like I say, you're catching the wrong balls, and that's why you're out of work, pal. So yeah, good content, but it didn't really do much, did it? No. But wait, if Josh Reynolds is the worst wide receiver you've got in your room, your wide receiver room is pretty good. So yeah, I'm fairly happy. Like I say, when Jameson Williams comes back, yeah, it might be Raymond that has to make way, but I mean that won't be that much harder of a decision. So no, I feel good about where we're at, and the people that are on the practice squad are the ones that they're dependable. They're the ones that can go out all drinking Saturday night and still turn up for Sunday league on Sunday and put a shift in. That's basically what Tom Kennedy is. He could play pissed and he would still put in a show and give Max Murphy. And that's why he's a lion. And I like that about him. But as long as he stays on the practice squad, don't dare take it off it. I'll slap your little hand.
Yeah, there was zero shocks here. I mean, I'm kind of glad that they went with the head over the heart here. The heart decision would have been to go for Tom Kennedy, and that would have been the wrong decision. They used the heads. They took the guys who can actually contribute to us. on an NFL game day Sunday and make plays and potentially be difference makers. And we got rid of the chafe and, agreed on every decision.
I feel like Josh Reynolds catches a lot of strays from this team. I don't want to go to bat for him too hard, but I'm quite excited for what Josh Reynolds does this year. I think it's a really good sign that Trinity Benson didn't make it for a couple of reasons. One, as discussed, give me DT or someone like that over him any day, just as an upside play. But also, and we've seen this before, but it's always good to double down on it. Like Brad Holmes made a trade which fans were angry about at the time, and it was always, well, let's see what he can do. It's all about the future. But he's not just hanging on to guys for the sake of it. He's willing to put his hands up and say, look, this didn't work, took a flyer, okay, rather than it would have been really easy to see Benson on the team instead of Shane Zylstra or someone like that, right? So, I think it's good for a couple of reasons.
I mean, you'd have thought when you traded Pondre Diggs for a fifth, wouldn't you? The way they go on about it. Oh, we gave away draft pick. Jesus Christ, man. He gave away a couple of day 3 picks. Who the hell cares? Like you say, at least it puts to bed the notion that he's picking people because they're his draft picks and that he's put people in them. Because I saw people were trying to suggest that. It's like, oh, that's why we're hanging on to Goff because it's his decision. Like, no, people earn their way on this team regardless of whether you put picks in them or not. And he's kind of put that one to bed, which is good.
Let's move on to the last skill position on the offense, the tight end room. We have 4 survivors in this group, which I think came as a slight surprise. TJ Hockenson, Brooke Wright, James Mitchell, and Shane Zylstra. 2 people biting the dust. Devin Funchess, former Michigan and Carolina tight end, wide receiver. And Derek Dees is on the practice squad. Ryan, how are you feeling after that?
Well, I'll start by saying we have not seen the last of Devin Funchess. I will put everything in my savings account on it that we see Devin Funchess again this year. If he had not got hurt and played more games, I think he could have made it. Because at tight end, and I'm going to say it, we're really weak. I said, it's not a strong position, is it? I said, Brooke Wright showed flashes last year, came in as number 2, but Shane Zylstra had a good preseason, showed that he could be the number 2 guy. So the cliff between like Hockenson and the rest is like the Mariana Trench. We are relying on TJ so bad. Like I said, the rest of them, we need a competent blocker. And that's why Garrett Griffin came back to the practice squad, didn't it? I was never advocate keeping him, but I'm pretty sure he came back because he can block. But yeah, Dees Jr., I just didn't see any of him. I don't know if he just struggled to get on the field in preseason, but it was a shame. But yeah, it's not the strongest room, but we've got depth. There's guys there that can make position, and yeah, I think we will see plenty more come on. We might try out some other guys as well. The practice squad will rotate a little bit, but yeah, it's a position where it's another one where we can't afford to lose TJ. I say if we go down at tight end and we're down to like 2s and 3s because TJ's got a knock, then it's going to be a long old day.
So, reading into that, Ryan, it's fair to say you didn't see these notes.
I wondered what you were chuckling at. I saw you down on the bottom of the screen. I was like, something's coming.
It's just when he said, "Oh, I didn't see him," I'm just like, "Yep, came to me right away." Just had to.
That's what she said.
I mean,
sorry.
Oh Jesus! You're the biggest child of a lot of us, and you're running this thing. That's terrible.
We've hit that point of the evening.
Yeah. All right, just very quickly about times.
I'm a child, and you duly elected me as your lead host when we started to sing. So all I can say is it's your own fault.
I think there were only us 2 around when this whole thing started. So these 3 didn't get a vote.
That's actually true.
Yeah, these 3 didn't get a vote. They blame the previous admin. Anyhow. Zylstra was the one I really didn't want to cut, so I'm glad they went 4 in the end. I like the 3 guys behind TJ. I think when you develop them right, you got the makings of some good guys there. Brooke Wright came in, earned his shot last year, took it. James Mitchell, you know how high I am on him. I think you're going to make a good tight end out of him. And Zylstra's just won't go away in a good way. He keeps coming back. He worked hard. He's recovered from that shattered kneecap. He's come in. He's played well. Fair play to him getting on this team. I like it. I think out of them 3, you are going to get a really good tight end 2 out of one of them. And to be honest, at the end of the day, that's what you want. You know, if you can get a good tight end 2 out of these guys to complement TJ, job done. So let them go fight for it now. And I think you'll see one rise to the top out of these. Hopefully Griffin and, the Michigan has been and all that. Don't see this team. So I just let the young guys play.
I don't know about you guys, but this position group is, other than quarterback, is the only one I really worry about. And like as Ryan said, it's that absolute trough after Hockenson. I kind of feel we've had 3 preseason games. We've barely seen any of Hockenson in preseason, but I just don't think I've seen anything concrete with these guys that any of them, even the ones that have made it, can cement a place on the roster. I kind of think tight end 2 and 3 is still completely up for grabs.
I think there's a difference between it being up for grabs and it being a bad room. I think if you say it's a bad room, I'd probably go with that. But I mean, point to me how many teams have a good number 1 tight end. I think I can probably point out half the league having subpar tight end 1. So like, the league is not exactly awash with good players at this position at all. I think there's probably 10 guys that I think are good at tight end, and maybe 6 or 7 that are really good. And I'm not sure whether Hawkinson's in that. He's certainly on the periphery of it and can elevate himself this year, but coming from a low base last year. But on that basis, compared to the rest of the league, you know, you're saying actually room for improvement, yes, but realistically, how much better can it get than this? You know, we had Funchess actually show some things in this preseason, and I think that, you know, Ryan is right. He only didn't make it because he got injured, or at least that completely trashed his chances. But you look at what Zylstra did. He basically showed up in every single practice report we saw from the media guys as doing exceptionally well in camp. And then when it came to the games, he caught a few balls. And I mean, at the tight end position, one where you don't actually get featured very much as a receiver, that's about as much exposure as you're going to get in a game. You saw Brooke Wright getting a few good blocks, which is something that we didn't see him do last year. James Mitchell came back for 1 or 2 preseason games, but only had limited reps. He had 1 whiff on a block, but the rest of the time, he actually put down some good kind of crossing the formation, smackdown blocks. And I don't know what else these tight end 2, 3, or 4 guys can do when there just ain't any alternative. Like, tight end's a bloody hard position to play, and almost no one's good at it. I don't know what else we
maybe
can do.
catch a couple of passes, maybe.
The thing is, you've got 3, you know, potentially talented young guys in your room now. So you've got, you know, a 3 times better chance of landing on one of them. Brooke Wright has taken the NFL, don't forget. And, you know, none of us were clamoring to see him gone this season. He showed enough to us all. We're like, yeah, I'd take him back. There's something there. As an undrafted free agent as well, you've got to have those expectations against him. It's not like he came in as a former 1st or 2nd round pick or something like that, and he's doing okay. He's an undrafted free agent who's come in and worked his way on the squad and done well. And James Mitchell is a good tight end out of college. You just got to hope he gets over the injuries and develops in the NFL. Zylstra's, you know, he's shown, he's flashed, but they see something there. So, you know, your odds go up if you've got 3 of these guys who are potentially good rather than just 1. So I factor that I think at least one of these guys will be on the roster for at least another 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah, I would quite happily say that. Right,
let's move on. Sorry,
I was just going to say that the Ravens have already got Mark Andrews. They've drafted Isaiah Likely, and he's caught 8 passes for 100 yards in preseason, including a touchdown on 15 snaps. So, you know, there is activity in other teams' tight end rooms.
He's a wide receiver.
He's a receiver.
There we go. He's a wide receiver.
He's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts at the tight end, isn't it? Let's be honest. Can't block for shit.
So Likely is what, 6'4", 230? He's like light. There are wide receivers heavier than him in the league.
Just look at his numbers from college. They are wide receiver numbers. You know, these guys in college at tight end who put up wide receiver numbers generally end up playing there. They don't come in and be all conquering blocking tight ends. Not what they're about.
Right, let's move it on to the last offensive position. Lots of guys to get through here. 9 survivors: Decker, Jackson, Ragnow, Vitae, Sewell, Nelson, Brown, Kramer, and Stenberg. The five guys to not make it: Kendall Lamb, outright cut. Abina Eze to the practice squad, as is Dan Skipper. Darren Paolo and Kevin Jarvis outright cut, or I think Jarvis actually was waived with an injury designation. For a minute, I thought that the front 5 of the first 2 teams were going to make it, but 9 is still a strong number, and both Kramer and Stenberg making it, so no OT4 on there, but Kramer and Stenberg, and I mean it's a testament to how well both of those guys played, especially in the preseason games, posting bumper PFF numbers in, really doing well on that second string offensive line, lads. Let's start with Tom for this one, shall we? I'm trying to go around.
Yeah, so look, Stenberg played really nicely the last couple of games. They clearly didn't want to lose him. Probably got someone they didn't think they could get through to the practice squad. It wouldn't surprise me if one of these guys goes down over the first few weeks. Goes down to the practice squad if we bring someone else in, because it does just seem a little like you don't need to have 2 backup interior, or not even interior guards, really, right? Like you've got Evan Brown at center, so we've got 2 backup guards for 2 guard positions. Look, it's fine. I think good for Stenberg, who, let's be honest, was a bit of an easy target for fans, especially over the last couple of years. So good that he got rewarded for clearly taking a step up. I think part of this comes down to you go down the list of guys that were cut, and there aren't that many that you'd be like, oh, actually, I really wish he'd made it. And so at that point, you reward the guys who performed in the preseason and performed during training camp, right?
I mean, we're set. The front 5 and interior-wise, we're set. We are. I really like the depth we have at these positions, but Christ on a bike, we need a tackle. We need a tackle 3, we need a tackle 4, we need a tackle 5, a tackle 6. We just need somebody who ain't named Matt Nelson as a backup tackle, because, I'm done with this. We talk about QB.
Bam! Sorry.
We talk about, take a bam. I don't, just the overall point at this point is we have neglected tackle as badly as we've neglected safety or quarterback too. The depth tackle positions have just been ignored. And that's why Kramer and Stenberg are still here, because there are from Nelson. After him, there was nothing. So keep the better guys on the interior, because, hell, they're still good players and they can contribute for you. If someone goes down, I don't know how much of it was down to if there was a good tackle on this team, one of them's probably gone. So you can get the depth guy in here, but I don't know why we haven't been on waivers and put claims in for somebody. I don't know why there hasn't been a more concerted effort to bring another tackle in, because that was the Achilles heel on this line last year. Matt Nelson was a liability to start the year out at right tackle when Taylor Decker went down, and we are heading for that same scenario again. If Sewell or Decker get injured and he has to come in as a starter, then you're really going to struggle. So, but the interior, really happy with. Front 5, really happy with. Tackle situations, disgraceful.
I do think it's one of those where Sewell is basically 1.5 tackles. Well, to be honest, 2 tackles. He's basically created another opportunity in the position room, because if Decker goes down, he can go to the left, and therefore you've only got to have Nelson at right. If Sewell goes down, obviously Nelson just slides straight in. Has meant they probably, Matt Nelson did some nice things, especially as a 6th O-line last year. But yeah, I don't think he's going to set the world on fire if he's starting at tackle. But it means that they feel confident only having 1 backup tackle, and therefore allowing themselves to have 2 interior guys on the backup, 3 interior guys.
Just some tackle news I've just seen is that the Eagles, Andre Dillard, apparently is going to be out for 6 weeks. So that's a bonus for us for week 1.
What a shame. What a shame.
I mean, offensive line, as long as everyone stays healthy, we could have fucking penalty pit stuff as a backup tackle. I won't care. So I'd say as long as they stay healthy, that's fine. Eze, I think we knew we were never going to make the 53. With no disrespect to him, Hank Fraley spent 4 episodes shouting at him, and did it look like a single word went into his head when he was asking him who was cheating, and he didn't even realize that he was talking to him? No. And he was a liability in every game. Like I say, kept missing blocks. He just wasn't sinking in. He found his level. I understand that he's very new at football, and it showed, didn't it? So he's a project. So he was practice squad at best. Dan Skipper, no comment. Christ, we just can't get rid of the guy, can we? He's another shit stick boomerang. Let's say. So
you didn't comment.
That
Was
offensive tackle was somewhere we could have used our waiver 2 priority. Ryan van Denmark, whatever his name is, someone could have brought in. Like I say, we had that priority waiver. We didn't use it. Could have brought in some depth, but no, like I say, Stenberg, like I say, has flattered to deceive, and that's me being polite for 2 years. Finally woke up. He's been like a Snorlax, and someone's finally come along, played the pokey flute. Year 3, he's woken up. Huzzah! So I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's finally woke up, and we might see that big nasty Kentucky brew. So yeah, I feel fine with it because if it all plays well, it's going to be like Reservoir Dogs, and we're just going to punch people in the face on offensive line.
Oh man!
Just imagining, if you gave Matt Nelson a big blonde wig, he'd look like Penelope Pitstop. That's what I'm thinking about now. Ryan mentioned that.
So Steve-O in the chat has given the answer here, which isn't one that I like, but it's probably the correct answer, which is that Big V should be the backup tackle, and we have 2 backup guards, one as the backup guard and one as a Big V backup, which I kind of buy. Like, I don't like it, but Big V's certainly better than Matt Nelson, and the guards as backup are probably better than the backup tackle we have. Now, moving someone to the offensive line for chemistry is not great, but that might be the best solution.
Tommy Kramer. I
trust
trust Tommy Kramer to play backup guard, and if Vitae kicks into tackle more than I trust Dan Skipper getting activated for a game to play tackle. I agree.
There we go.
And we are paying Vitae a tackle salary, I guess. So if he is out there, supposed to get more value for money.
Does make sense. We are just over halfway through. There's more offensive players and defensive players to consider here. Just want to take this moment to say thank you for being with us. If you've got any questions for the end of the show, get them in now because we are coming towards the end of it. If you have any questions, we will get to them at the bottom of the show. Just to remind you guys, Thursday show, Eagles at Lions preview show with the British and Irish Eagles. Please don't forget to like and sub to the show, and if you've got any comments below on what you think about the decisions we've made on this roster, please get them in too. Always helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Right, defense, starting with the defensive line. And on the interior, we had 6 survivors: Michael Brockers, Ali McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, Isaiah Buggs, Demetrius Taylor, and then Benito Jones, newly signed. In terms of the interior guys, Jashawn Cornell missed out, and then Hector, I guess it depends what you say about him. Is he an edge? Is he an interior guy? Probably, I guess, slightly more in, 3-5 tech guy? Whatever. I'm putting him in the interior here. He didn't make it either, but he's on the practice squad. Jashawn Cornell, outright cut this time. No redemption for him. And your turn to start. What did you make of the people staying and people going?
Oh, I'm so happy for Demetrius Taylor. The second we got him, I said he's going to be on this team. I could just see it in the way he plays, the versatility he offers you, and he kind of went under the radar for a long time, because even when I say to people like, well, I've not really heard much about him, but that's kind of the way he is. He just does that, unseen work, all that extra graft, all the extra effort. He just gets down to it. Nothing flashy, nothing special, just does what he needs to do. As you saw in preseason, he worked well against the run. He made some big plays, put pressure on the quarterback. Exactly what he's capable of doing, whether you want to put him as an interior nose tackle, whether you want to put him on the edge. He can do a little bit of everything. And, I'm just delighted for him, because I really think he's going to be a good player for us when developed properly. Top Wash seems to be doing well, developing these defensive line guys, getting them in there. And he's got a huge opportunity because Levi ain't fit, Pascal ain't fit. The land of opportunity, he's taken his, and he's going to get on this team, and he's going to play. I think he's going to play really well. I think people are going to love him really quickly. So I was just absolutely delighted for him, because, like I say, he's earned it, and I think he's going to show out big for us this year. The rest, I guess they were all expected. Obviously, Buggs is on there. I don't expect Buggs to hang around. He'll be the first one cut when Pascal or Levi are fit. He's a non-tackling machine. His missed tackle rating is like 25% or something. It's huge. I know people want this big run-stuffing guy in the middle, but when you can't hold on to a running back or bring him down, you're no good. So I think he's just kind of that extra guy until one of those two is fit. Don't know who's going to go when the pair of them come back. But yeah, there weren't many surprises other than that. But big credit to Demetrius Taylor. I'm just really, really happy for him.
Yeah, I love the fact that Taylor got through. Steve, I can't remember. I think you were talking about tight end, and you said that and callback were the groups you were most worried about. Interior defensive line for me is such a big question mark. So Ali McNeil's been talked about in terms of taking a big step. Really hope so, and completely believe that can happen. But other than that, I mean, Brockers, we kind of saw nothing from last year, so I don't know why I'd expect much this year. Levi can't get on the field. Pascal can't get on the field. Bugs, to your point, it hasn't been that impressive. Jones has got waived, and obviously we picked up, but I don't think we're going to be expecting him to set the world on fire. So I would love Taylor to get in there and do some things, but it's concerning, I think, from my standpoint. Watching the interior line get worked over last year, how confident do we feel that we're really going to be able to make something work inside? I'm just not that confident. Let's say I really hope McNeil takes a step forward. And again, not that he was a disaster last year by any means, but he definitely wasn't a superstar. So yeah, I'm worried about it, to be honest.
I think this is the group where there's the biggest mystery. I think obviously with Pascal and Levi to come, potentially it could be a really solid group, but we don't know what Levi is going to look like after his injury, if he's ever going to make it back on the field. And we don't know how long Pascal's going to take to develop. So this really does feel like, like the Eagles in week 1, with Jalen Hurts and a strong running game kind of worries me.
Yeah, Demetrius Taylor has got the chance to be a huge winner because Levi, I don't know, yeah, he scares the life out of me because I just don't trust him whatsoever to see the field. I think he's going to be one of those that is just going to be a sick note, one of those dogging at my homework, like I said. So I am ruling out any expectations at all on Levi this year. If we see him for more than half the season, I'll be happy. Pascal, well, we knew he had a lingering injury, like you say, that NFI. So he's got potential, but also, yeah, he's got life in the NFL has not started easily for him. So Taylor's got a big chance to see playing time very early, which he's earned in earnest. So I'm happy about that. Ali McNeil, I think, will be one of our best players on defense this year. I think the stars are aligning for McNeil to have a big year. Brockers he has got to show something this year. He has got to show that he is the veteran. He's the guy that is going to put his arm around the guys around him. Just tell them to pull their socks up, say, tie their pants a little bit tighter. He's going to have to show some real veteran leadership this year. So I'm expecting big things from him. He's going to have to pick up some slack, but I genuinely don't know if he's got it in him anymore. So I agree. This position worries me. There's 2 positions on defense that worry me. This is one of them.
I think, just as a kind of hot take thing in terms of Demetrius Taylor, I just think the rise is going to keep coming. It's easy to get carried away with this sort of thing, but I think this is as much Taylor showing out in camp as it is injuries and disappointing play from other people. I think there's a very realistic chance that Demetrius Taylor is a starter, at least at some point this season, if not the starter, come the end of the season, especially if Levi doesn't come back and look good. Because I think Pascal's going to be given his chance at edge rusher. Like, that is, at the moment, reputedly his position. I know that it's more of a 5 tech sort of thing, but, 5 tech in the scheme is going to be the strong defensive end, right? So, strong, weak, whichever. So, at the end of the day, I think that DT2 spot is up for grabs, and if Brockers doesn't look good, as I think a lot of us fear, there's a great chance that Taylor makes it as DT2 by week, 11, 12?
I'm calling it now. He will take the Penasini route in this team. He will get a few snaps to start with. He will impress with those snaps, and you will see his snap count gradually go up week by week to the point when you finish your first season, you're like, oh, hang on, this guy actually contributed a fair bit for us here. And, he's a late round, well, it wasn't even a pick, but Penasini was a late round pick, and Taylor's an undrafted free agent. I think you'll see exactly the same rise from him this year. Like I say, You might not see it much to start with, but as time goes on, he'll get more and more, and he'll show out more and more.
Right, let's move it on to the edge position. Edge rushers 5 remain: Hutchinson, Harris, Julian Aquara, Austin Bryant, John Kaminsky, with James Houston going to the practice squad and Eric Banks outright cut. Obviously, with this, I'm sure you've all noticed, anyone on the PUP or IR list or NFI list I have left off. I'm going to just go through them at the very, very end. So 5 remain, 2 cut. And for me, no surprises, boys. I think, Steve, your turn to start here. What do you make of the edge group?
I mean, I think the good thing is from a meritocracy point of view, you know, Austin Bryant was heading for, you know, release, you know, a year ago. And it's just shown that if you play hard and you show up and you turn up and you're there and you improve and, you know, you get coached up, that, you know, you can do it. Like, we need to see, we can't just be spunking money in free agency. We need to see players getting coached up. You know, talking about like Logan Stenberg, can Hank Fraley improve him? Well, you know, it's clear that something's happened with Austin Bryant, because we saw like nothing from him in, you know, previously, just nothing at all, not even really any flashes of potential. So I think the fact that he's made the squad is a good thing, and that will give other players in those kind of fringe positions encouragement. You know, I'm very skeptical about Julian Aquara. You know, again, not really seen much, and there's been a lot of injuries. But then, you know, in Hutch and Harris, you've just got possibly 2 of the stronger pass rushers, you know, in the certainly in the NFC. So it's a group that could be really good, but there's also a lot of question marks.
I think Kaminsky looked okay in pre-season, like you say. He got a reasonable good amount of snaps, like you say. He's not flashy. He will never be flashy. He's not that kind of guy, but he's consistent. He's rugged. I think Austin Bryant is going to be the breakout player on defense this year. I think he's having a breakout year. I think he's getting 5.5 sacks, and I've never been comfortable saying that, but he's done what Deshaun Hand has never failed to do. He's managed to actually finally look to put together back-to-back series and flash. I agree. I don't trust Julian Aquara whatsoever, but he's got that athletic profile where they're willing to roll the dice and then give him one more chance. If it don't work, he's gone next year. Like I said, there's no ifs, whats, buts about it. So he's got one last chance to prove him, because he has shown flashes in the past, but can he stay on the field? Charles Harris looks good. He looks relaxed. Like I say, he's got the deal. He's happy to be here, so he's not thinking about anything else, just the football. He's got a one-track mind. He's now singly focused on playing, and I think he is going to deliver on that extension. Like I say, we had questions about him last year. Was he just coming here for a paycheck? Well, he's got it. I expect him to deliver on it. Hutch, you know what you're getting, don't you? Relentless motor. He is fierce. He is mean. He's one of the favourites for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I think against a strong offensive line, I think he's going to show out. And I think he is going to take the world by storm. So I am very excited by this position group. There's some potential fireworks there. And we have lacked juice on the edge now for years.
I'm low-key excited about this room. I mean, you've got sort of the right group of players in there now. With Hutch and Harris, you've got an experienced vet who's coming off his best season, who's looking to carry on rolling. He's now got a number 2 pick on the draft with him. You're going to have a fierce 1-2 punch there with them 2 coming off the edges. And as Ryan said, you know, the relentless motors on the pair of them, they're just going to keep going and going and going and going and going. And they're going to wear offensive tackles down over the game. And then in relief, you are bringing in 2 guys who, you know, they're talented. I know I've berated Julian a lot over the years, but Julian and Austin are both talented, but can they show it consistently? If these 2 can consistently come in and show what they are capable of this season, backing up Hutch and Harris, then all of a sudden you've got 4 very good edge rushers on your hands here. And you've got Romeo Aquara to come back at some stage if he ever is going to get healthy from this Achilles injury. So, you know, potentially you have a room with a lot of depth, and that's going to be great for us going forward. But on the flip side, all I would say about the 3rd and 4th, if Austin and Julian don't show out this year, then bye-bye, you're gone. They're at the point now where consistency is a massive issue for them. They need to show that they can be healthy for a season. They need to show that they can produce for a season. And before, people in the comments, one in particular go, oh, yeah, you want world-beating guys as your edge rushers 3 or 4. No, I just want consistent guys as my edge rushers 3 and 4 who can come in, make plays, and give something to this team. And that is not, something that is unfair to ask for. These two both have a point to prove this year. And, if either of them fall short, then they're done here. So hopefully they come in and they do well. But if they don't, then, yeah, you're done.
All right, let's move this on to the linebacker group. 5 remain: Anzalone, Barnes, Rodriguez, Board, and Woods. 2 cut. Pittman goes to the practice squad, as does former first-round pick Jared Davis. So none of the linebacker group are outright gone. Anyone else surprised Josh Woods survived over Anthony Pittman? Ryan, was that a surprise to you?
No. Woods showed flashes when he came in rotation. Anthony Pittman, bread and butter special teams. We're going to look at a position later where we cut a very experienced guy who only played special teams. We're now not going to be that team where we just rely on relentless, heavy special teams. We've seen in the past that we've got rid of likes of Kilbrew, Mike Ford. We've got the guys, like I say, that just played special teams. And Anthony Pittman was that guy. I didn't see the flashes on the field. Am I surprised that we didn't get anyone outright? Absolutely not. This room was weak as really bad milky tea beforehand. So we couldn't afford to lose bodies before. We couldn't afford to lose the people, could we? We had to keep them on somewhere. Jared Davis, I am not surprised at all. Like I said, great mind, great guy. I think he's going to be maybe a good coach one day. Like, they've brought him in because he's a good guy to have around the room on the practice squad. I'll give him that. I know I always shit on him as a player, and everyone always look at that. I'm not surprised he's not making a team, but they wanted to keep him around because he's good to have around. Like I say, Rodriguez, I think Barnes, like I say, we had lots of questions about Derek Barnes. Like I say, is he ever going to be able to make it? Is he going to be able to get over that? I've not been able to diagnose players and been in the right place. Showed some flashes in the second and third game after a slow start. So, Anzalone, in pre-season, we didn't see him much, but we didn't need to, did we? You know what you're getting with him. He's a safe pair of hands. So, yeah, I feel okay about the linebacker room. I'm not going to rave about it, but I feel okay. Like I said, I think Rodriguez and Barnes, by the end of the year, hopefully are starting. But Chris Board and Anzalone right now will probably be doing a lot of heavy lifting. But Malcolm will come in very quickly and he will gobble up snaps because he has looked ferocious.
Yeah, I guess Woods is a bit of a surprise. The other 4 obviously aren't. Now, I think this speaks to what you're saying, right? Woods is going to barely see the field unless there's injuries. He's going to get all his reps on special teams. But I think the point is they've chosen Woods over Pittman because of what he can do if he is needed to get on the field. And clearly thinks he can do a job on special teams. Whether they think he's better than Pittman on special teams or not, who knows? But Woods definitely showed up more on defense. And so I think it does fill you with confidence that maybe they had Woods and Pittman as similar guys from a special team standpoint, but they know Woods can still deliver there. And they like him more as a player on defense. And therefore you're moving away from pure specialists. So yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction. I wouldn't have had a strong view if Woods was cut in the same way I don't have a strong view that he's on the team. But yeah, I think versus where we entered preseason, I'm definitely more excited about the linebacker room than I was when we entered. I still think when you actually get to playing NFL officers, they're going to get thrown around a little bit and we're going to have some pain in there too. But it's definitely more exciting seeing Rodrigo come through. Barnes, obviously, there was a bit of positivity after a tough preseason week 1. So yeah.
What did you say? Linebackers not a position anymore, is it? No one cares about it. So what does it matter how good it is? We kind of reap what we sow here. So, it's going to be a struggle this year and we're going to continue going on like it's not an issue. So, yeah, we're just going to have to deal with this going forward in years. Hopefully, we've got some good young guys on there. I'm glad Woods is here. As Tom said, he's shown that he can actually do something on an NFL pitch that ain't just special teams. And the purge of these specialists who are just special teamers only is nearly done, which I'm glad, because it means this team's moving forward. And but yeah, it's probably going to be a rough year. But I hope for Barnes and Rodrigo's sake they're able to come through and play well, because both are potential special talents at the position. So yeah, hopefully we can get something out of them.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. The linebacker room, it was like a really bad cup of like weak milky tea, like a cup of tea that is just like sort of lukewarm, and like you go and like the bag's still been left in, and then you get the bag out and you realize it's like a no frills bag from Nisa. It's that kind of cup of tea. And then Rodriguez has kind of transformed my outlook on it. Like, it's still a worrying room, but Rodriguez, I think, is one absolute certainty to do something this year and make an impact. Like, I still think he's going to occasionally like give up daft plays. He was kind of overplaying a bit during preseason, but he is an impact player and he is going to like make a play. He will be a guy that makes a play out of nowhere and brings us momentum back. He will knock the ball out. He will cause a fumble. He will just appear from out of nowhere for a tackle for loss. And that's all we can hope from that room, because it was probably the worst room in the Lions, and it probably still is, maybe corner. But at least now we know that there is a spark, and you would hope that he will spark off Barnes as well.
He's the ketamine in the sugar bowl. Like I say, he's spice it up. Like I say, he's gonna bring something to that weak cup of tea. I think he's gonna get penalised. I can see it now. But
Ryan needs to do a book of poems.
Ryan, there's been two major changes, I think, in you in the time that we've been doing this podcast. One, you are not afraid of giving your takes anymore. You absolutely go for it, and I love that. But two, your comparisons. What's the English word?
Metaphors and similes.
That's the one. Thank you. Being saved here. They've become more elaborate and more visually impressive.
I want to see him do a book of poetry. I think it would be wonderful.
I think
between Milligan.
Between you and Steve as well. I mean, Steve, earlier we had Timbor's Boomerang, we had Red Bull Fluke Tag. I feel like the Raw the Lions bingo card would be a pretty tough game right now. We come out with some shit.
I think, do you remember in Hard Knocks when Dan Campbell said, we're going to tread water as long as it takes to bury you? I think that's one where he's borrowed that from Ryan.
Yeah, we just need a mention of girth now, and we've filled the lottery card. So
ding, 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 ding.
on the Jason and OC podcast a couple of weeks ago, I thought of you, Tom, obviously, but I thought he was going to say ride the hot hand, but he said run with the hot hand.
Boo.
So close.
Okay, right, let's move this on to the second to last position on the defense. Try and get this back on track. Cornerback room. 9 started, 6 remain. Oriwarie, Okuda, Harris, Price, Hughes, and Lucas made it. Not making it, Savion Smith and AJ Parker on the practice squad. Mark Gilbert outright cut. Time for Tom to kick us off. Any surprises for you? We've got 2 slot guys on there I was perhaps not expecting.
Yeah, I think AJ Parker losing out is the obvious one in terms of surprise. I was going to say I love it. That's way too strong. I love the fact Chase Lucas made the team. Again, it's hard to know when you only get glimpses of it through either the beats talking about practice or some of the bits from the games. But like what he's about, like what he's done, I think it's tough for AJ Parker, to be honest. I'm glad that he's back on the practice squad. I think I'm right in saying. Yeah, so it would have been a shame to lose him. It's good to still have him in the building. But yeah, I'm excited about Lucas. I'm not a big Mike Hughes fan. In that there was a play, I think it was the second preseason game. Will Harris got shredded on Twitter for a big completion, and for me, it was all Mike Hughes. And actually, I'm excited that hopefully Chase Lucas can keep learning, keep developing, and maybe take that slot position as the season goes on. But no other surprises for me. Savion Smith was having a really nice camp and then obviously struggled in that final preseason game. But good to see him back on the practice squad as well.
Jeff. Oh, Jeff. My heart goes out to you. Like I say, I'm so happy just to see him. He's looked good. He's not shown. He hasn't been super flashy rah in your face. Like he has been all business. I've barely heard him say a word, even in the games like that. He is so laser focused. Like I say, mentally, he's in the best place probably he's been in pro football. The body looks good. The tackling is still there. Like you say, he has just gone out there and done everything I've asked of him, and I'm just so happy. Like you say, he's just going to come out of this season with, I think, hopefully so much confidence. Like I say, going forward, we may just see a glimpse of the third overall guy we've had there. Like Bobby Price, like I said, that guy kind of showed out. Like I said, I did not expect him to make some big plays he did in preseason. He looked good. He's bounced around between cornerback and safety, like I said, throughout his career. He's been a bit of a relief guy, stop-start, but he has been one of the very hard workers, and he's flown under the radar. Not many people have spoken about him. You not hear his name called often, but a lot of hard work. Chase Lucas, I've watched him for 4 years, so obviously the moment we drafted him, I was biased and saying he will make the team. I had supreme confidence in he would, and I agree. I think he can win that slot corner from Mike Hughes quickly. Like I say, all the age things that everyone's saying, like I say, it's just overcome. Also, he's chatty. He's got that talk like he was like in the India warm-ups, like when he's telling guys like, "You're shit." Like I say, telling Steelers like long line veterans like, "You're not good enough." Like say, you can't step to me. Like he's supremely confident and he's very polished. So this is the position I feel best about before how I felt about camp. Camp to now, the cornerback room, I feel really good about it. Like I say, Colts tested us, MPJ, Pierce gave us a really good workout. Steelers have got some doings. Like I say, I feel confident that this unit will not be one of the embarrassing ones the last few years. There's a bit more balls to them. They won't let themselves be dominated and be the laughing stock of that position. So yeah, I feel good about it. Armani, I'd say he's been quiet. I've not seen too much of him because all the other guys around him have been the ones that have been really trying to cement their place on the roster. But I feel like we're in a good place. Like I say, the last position we're going to talk about is the other worrying one. Like I say, linebacker, I'm less worried about. The other position, safety, that is the other position on defense I'm worried about. So no, I feel good about corners.
Yeah, I really like this room as well. I just think it's got a mixture of just about everything that you want in there. Obviously, Jeff's come back. He's looking good. Hopefully, he's going to make that transition to quarterback one because, we still need one. So hopefully he's going to, get there at some point. Then Armani, we know, is a very capable quarterback too. You've got Hughes in there who's done it at the NFL level. He's got the experience. And then, you've got a slew of talented young guys behind them here. Obviously, it's good in Parker didn't make it, but, he's had the injury. You can get him onto the practice squad, which I'm delighted with. You can refine him a little bit, just fine-tune that game, some of his issues. And then if you bring him up on a game day, you're like, you know what, got a solid corner here. Don't mind that. So you've got him, you've got Chase Lucas. Really, really happy for Chase Lucas. Just like with Demetrius Taylor. I feel like this is where the philosophy of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes giving anyone a chance, regardless of your draft pick, regardless of how much money you make, yada, yada, yada. Everyone gets a fair chance here. And you've seen that with our later round rookies, our undrafted free agents this year. Malcolm Rodriguez has been given an opportunity to carry on working his way up through the ranks because of hard work and good play. He's taken that chance. Chase Lucas has also done the same. He's got onto this team. They gave him an opportunity. They didn't say, look, you're in a room with a lot of good guys here. You're not really going to make it. They've given the opportunity to go out and make the position his own. He has done. Demetrius Taylor has come in as an undrafted free agent. He's fought his way onto this team. And that's because Dan Campbell said, look, we can't ignore him anymore. You can say he's an undrafted free agent. You can say he's a little small. That doesn't matter. He's playing that well that it's like, right, we're going to give him the opportunity because he's earned it. And I feel like you are getting the fruits of your labor from that thing here. All these late round guys coming in thinking, look, I've got a chance. If I just work my ass off, I'm going to get an opportunity on this team. And that's good for this team in the long run because it's not just your higher round picks that are going to be able to make it. your later round picks are going to stand a fighting chance as well. So I love it, and and then you've got more depth guys in there, so I'm happy with them overall. Even Price has earned his way onto that team. I mean, for me, he's like that guy at the airport who's holding up a sign. His sign says Jerry Jacobs on it. I think he's keeping his spot nice and warm for when he comes back and he's gone, because Jerry will be back and on this team. But outside of that, really happy.
The only thing I'll say on the position group is I do still worry what we're going to do against speedier guys. I think the makeup of the room doesn't necessarily suit itself to guys who can take the top off the defense. Like Jalen Reagor, not exactly the finest receiver in the league, but I'm not devastated that he's gone from the Eagles week 1, because I know we've got to play him then, I guess, twice later on in the year. But it'll be interesting to see how we line up against twitchier guys. I'm still not convinced.
My only take on this is that I don't think that it's going to be Bobby Price with his name on the board for Jerry Jacobs. I think it's going to be... yes, I know that you were fishing. I know you were fishing. I think it's going to be Mike Hughes. I think once Chase Lucas wins that job and Jerry comes back, that Hughes, with that salary, is going to find himself superfluous. But there we go. Let's move on to the safeties. 6 started, 5 remain. Walker, Elliott, Melifonwu, Joseph, and Hughes stay. CJ Moore goes, the one guy I didn't think would go, but injury has put pay for him. I can't remember where we got to. Was it Tom? I think it was Tom to kick us off for this.
Yeah, why not?
Juju Hughes perhaps being the surprise?
Yeah, I mean, he's someone who, I'll be honest, he didn't really stand out to me at any stage during the preseason. He was not one of those names that will pop up in the daily write-ups from the beat writers. I don't remember seeing loads of him when he was on the field. So was it a surprise? Maybe no, but I mean, again, he's one of these guys, which again, I just don't have a strong view on. I think it's interesting, obviously, with CJ Moore falling out, because he's been a favorite of the coaching staff last year. And am I right in saying he was the personal protector?
CJ Moore was, yeah.
So is Juju Hughes going to fill that role? Has that been made clear?
The person who was repping in CJ Moore's place when CJ Moore was injured was Tracy Walker.
Interesting. Okay. But yeah, so Juju Hughes, I would assume he's going to be getting his reps on special teams. Don't have a particularly strong view. It's a group which is concerning. If he can't get on the field, Kirby is roaring, that's fine. But obviously, I don't think we're expecting huge contributions from him this year. So it's really down to Tracy and Deshaun Elliott, and it's kind of a who knows situation.
Still hope we don't get somebody. This group just don't feel right at the minute. And Anthony Harris is sat there begging for a team. He's a starter on most teams in this league. Just please, for the love of God, go and get him. You want to give Kirby Joseph a good first year where you can work him into this team. You don't want him to be starter by default, because he's going to get burned a lot and it might affect his progression going forward. So I just hope, for the love of God, we're not done here. There are people we can still bring in.
Yeah, the position worries me. Juju Hughes, I just didn't see much from him. Like I said, it's telling that there was no one really behind him to challenge him. It never felt like his job was in danger, because there was just no one else there to really challenge him, which is really worrying. Just a real lack of depth, like I said. Kirby Joseph gets the benefit of the doubt because he's a rookie. He got picked on in pre-season, and he will get picked on in his rookie season. If you throw him in, the Lions will have him. So I don't want them to do that. Like I said, Tracy is going to have to show every bit of that deal. Like I say, we need him to be one of the enforcers on this defense this year. Deshaun Elliott, up and down, mixed bag. Like I say, pre-season, like I say, he's learning a new scheme. He comes in with that one good year, but from him, we're going to need to see a bit of consistency. CJ Moore, like I say, experienced favourite, but they just didn't feel like he offered enough on the actual field, I suppose. like I say, and he was one of those that was probably safe knowing that he'd be picked up elsewhere. So yeah, I would like to see an addition. I would have liked to see the waiver pirate of someone like go out there and pick up a good someone for the practice squad. But I think it's a position I would like to see addressed further because right now it does worry me. If we play 2 or 3 sets and we've got to have Juju or maybe Kirby on the field, I feel like you're putting a target on them which could be exploited.
I think for me, you've got Tracy Walker as the absolute kind of cornerstone of the safety group, and then you really want to say Deshaun Elliott, but there's a reason why Deshaun Elliott's not on the Ravens anymore, and it was just his durability, and that's the worry that if anything happens to Deshaun Elliott, Melifonwu's had his injury struggles and he's changed position, and there's a lot of question marks there. So it just feels like, again, it's the fragility. Like, Melifonwu is a guy who plays with massive physicality, and you can see he's had injury problems. Is he going to get injured again? Is Deshaun Elliott going to get injured again? And then all of a sudden, the lack of depth is really going to bite. And that's my worry here.
My worry here is that I don't think Deshaun Elliott is good enough. I saw in pre-season him getting taken on in coverage, and I hope to God that he's coming downhill most reps and we go single high, because the guy ain't good in coverage. He's slow as his first step to get off. And so in cover 2, and guys kind of trying to pick off over the top of the corner and the safety's got to go and try and cover him, he can't get there in them. And I worry about us playing too high, which we tried to play a lot of last year, or cover 2. And I this defense is not built to go cover 3. So I'm really worried about this safety room because Walker's going to be fine. But Elliott, he's just not good enough as your safety 2. He's not.
Yeah, I forgot about Melifonwu, actually. I know Melifonwu looks good, but you look at the league, you look at Patrick Peterson, Logan Ryan, 2 great players that have made that safety cornerback safety position switch, and neither of them have looked good for me at the new position. So I know I want to see if he play that position, but they're not interchangeable. I know it myself, and I know I would have preferred to try him at safety than Jeff, but there's no guarantee he's going to make the switch because those 2 savvy veterans who play physical have not looked great to me making that switch either. So there's no guarantees in life. So yeah, it's going to be a mixed bag.
If he struggles this year, then they can chalk up another notch on the list of Will Harris mistakes keeping him here. That's the only reason he's got moved, is to try and incorporate Harris in this team. And it still annoys me to this day. If he is an outside corner, and if he looks like a good outside corner, if you train him properly, someone had to be sacrificed to keep Will Harris on this team, and he's in there. And it still grates me to this day. He shouldn't be there. He should be playing at corner. If you can find one serviceable safety 2 this year while Kirby develops, then I think that's what we're looking for here. You've got to kind of hope. You've got to hope that someone can hold up long enough till Kirby's developed and can come in and join Walker. Because outside of that, you're going to struggle. And like I say, you shouldn't overload Kirby to start with. But this iffy move still annoys the hell out of me. And hopefully he's back at corner sooner rather than later.
My thanks to Def Jam Rizza for following us on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/ROTL_UK. Moving on to the final positions of the special team specialists. And they are dancing on the streets of Detroit because Jack Fox has won the punter position. Scott Daly is the long snapper, and Austin Seibert wins the job over kicker Riley Patterson. He was the only guy on the Lions cutdowns who was actually waiver claimed by another team. Other guys cleared waivers and joined other people's practice squads. He's the only one who's actually made the 53-man roster of another team. And I kind of just find that a funny little anecdote because of the fact that we were all told, oh, well, people from this team in cutdowns are going to land on other teams and start for other teams. Doesn't seem like that's coming true. Not yet, at least. There's time. But we shall see, does anyone have any massive takeaways I want to get to with specialists? I don't think it's worth spending too much time on, really. Okay, let's move this on. So that's the end of the breakdowns for that. We're going to take some, well, the one question that we have now. If you guys have any questions that you do want us to get to, please do get on that now and we'll get them asked to the guys. Just one thing, it was asked in the YouTube chat just now. Are we running a Pick'em League this year as we have done the last few years? Yes, we are. I've linked it in the YouTube and Twitch. I've also put a tweet out for it. Please do come and show us how it's done because our record last year was not particularly good. My lifetime record in the last 5 years, 907 to 536 and 7, which is a 63% rate straight up, which is not great. It's fine. So come and beat us. Doesn't cost you anything. I think a few of the guys here are in that league too, so go and check it out. Just going to get to our one question now at the moment. Please do get some more in if you can. It's from Michael Lucci's on Twitter. He's always getting the questions in. I absolutely love that. He says, let's say the Lions, this is probably applicable to Thursday, but we'll ask it anyway. Let's say the Lions lose by between 7 and 14 points against the Eagles in week 1. Will you be concerned at all about the overall rebuild of this team if we lose by a number greater than 7 in this game? But specifically, like, not a 1-score game, but not more than a 2-score game. Is that in that sort of fun zone where we're fine, or how would you guys feel with a loss of that size?
I expect to lose. I think we're going to lose. Like I said, I am fine accepting it now. What I want to see is if we lose by 10 points, but we keep it tight for 3 quarters, but in the end we run out of steam, I'm fine with that. They made us look like dickheads last year. And Dan Campbell has come out today and said they embarrassed us, they imposed their will on us, and they marched up and down the field. If they do that again, I will be furious and I will be questioning everything that I feel comfortable about right now. So if we go out there, play really well, and they're the better side and win by 10, 11, 12 points, I can live with that. This result on this week does not have any bearing on the rebuild whatsoever unless we get blown out. Win or loss, I am not bothered. I just want to see crucial positions step up. I just want to see us run the ball well because they're good in the trenches. We're supposed to be good in the trenches. I want to see us compete with who I think is a possible Super Bowl dark horse team. I rate the Eagles incredibly highly. They have done great moves and worked hard in the last 2 years. So, yeah, I care more about the performance than the result. If we go out there and we pull a sneaky win, even better. If we go out there and we prove to everyone that we've got better in the last year, that is fine by me as well.
I don't know. I think if you're losing by more than 14, no matter how hard you're playing, you're still not playing good enough. Yeah, if you're getting beaten out by 3 scores. I mean, I'm with Ryan for the most part. It's performance here. We've invested heavily in the trenches. You know, I keep hearing about how good their D-line is. They've Hassan Reddick, they've Fletcher Cox. Well, you know, I've got a top 5 O-line. We've invested 3 first-round picks in it. A lot of money for the guards and draft picks. I want to see them win. I don't care how good they are. I've got one of the best lines in football. I want to see them go out there and dominate. And if they can't, then I'm going to ask questions about those guys in there and their capabilities. Same with the defensive line. I know we're coming up against one of the best offensive lines in the league. Let's face it, we're coming up against a really good unit. But we've again invested in there in ourselves. So I want to see them at least fight. We need to try and bring pressure because if you can put Jalen Hurts under pressure, he makes mistakes. That's how you go about trying to win this game potentially. So you've got to fight hard. You've got to play hard. And, you know, I don't want to see, if we are going to lose, then any more than 14, that would probably be concerning for me. Because I say, we preach trenches. We've invested in it. So we've got to go out and prove a point now.
Yeah, I mean, football's a weird game in terms of scores can happen which don't really represent the performance, etc. And I think similar to what Ryan Ant have said there, whilst I personally don't care so much about the outcome and the points as probably others, it all comes down to almost the discussion we've just had. So take that O-line. If they don't put in a strong performance against a very good Eagles D-line, but then I'm there questioning, are we where we thought we were? if the cornerbacks get burnt by speed, are we still in that position? If we see Derek Barnes making the Ron Reeds and our linebackers getting swept up, if we can't stop the run, it's all those kind of things that I care a lot more about than the score and the number of points, because you can have a situation where you throw a Hail Mary at the end of a game and it turns into a pick six, and that's a 7-point swing just there. So the number of points I'm less worried about. It's more, is it a performance that we think is still trending in the right direction? Completely agree with Wright. I think this is genuinely one of the best or better rosters in the league. So am I expecting us to have every position group show up well against them? No. But where is it drawing our attention? I'm almost more worried if our running game doesn't get going, if our receivers don't get open, than I am if our linebackers get swallowed up in the run game because the guys in front of them haven't done their job. So, yeah, it's much more performance-based for me than the actual score outcome.
So for me, our season starts in week 3, because I think no matter what happens against the Eagles, the Eagles are like one of the NFC's better rosters, really strong across all positions. They've got a great defense. And, we saw what they did to us last season, and I think the Eagles have got better. So I don't, as the guy said, as long as we play hard and we're competing, I don't care if we lose by 2 scores in the first game. I kind of almost expect it. And likewise, against the Commanders in week 2, like, this is one of the worst 5 teams in the entire NFL. They've got a terrible quarterback. Chase Young won't be playing. If we could beat the Commanders by 20 points in week 2, and I don't think we've really learned anything. For me, it's about the Vikings in week 3. It's a divisional game. We know where we were against them last season. This is the game where I think, not the season's on the line, but it will really, really show us whether we've come on as a team and a unit, and from a strategic point of view, a physicality point of view. Week 3 against the Vikings for me is where it starts.
Got 2 more quick questions to go, and then we'll wrap it up. And I do mean we'll go through them quickly, but just to give a shout out to Ant for putting in our Discord chat the news that Kenny Pickett is quarterback 3 for the Steelers officially. He did not beat out Mason Rudolph for quarterback 2. Fun times. Second question in there in the Twitch chat from Big Area 70, the subscriber, love that guy, says, very quickly, one name from you guys. The Lions have traded a player before the trade deadline. Who is that player most likely to be? Ryan.
TJ Hawkinson.
Tom.
Evan Brown.
Ant.
Amani Oruwariye.
Steve.
Yeah, TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I'm with Hawk as well. It's just the timing is right. Like, if we are really not where we think we're going to be, if we are, 3-6 or something at the trade deadline, and he's playing a mediocre style of football, and we're trending towards not wanting to pay him, perfect time to trade him. I don't think that will happen, but in the scenario where we are dealing people at the deadline, then I think the answers itself. I just don't think we'll be dealing people at the deadline because I think we'll be better than that. But
very quickly on that, so people would have to really prepare themselves that they're going to get horrible comp for that. And it's like, if you're asking me, would I rather have TJ Hawkinson on my team or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Honestly, I'd probably go Gardner-Johnson, especially given our room. And you see what comp he got, because obviously you've got to go and pay him. So Hawkinson isn't going to go and get a second-round pick or something like that. It's probably going to be day 3 stuff, just to, forewarn everyone.
It depends, It's like the same with, it's why I say Amani. If you're not going to pay them, then deal them for what you can. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to have them on your roster any year after the future, so you may as well try and get a pick for them going forward. If Akuda balls out this year, then you don't need to pay Amani $10 million next year. So
the only thing about cornerback versus tight end is, like we said before, there's very few good tight ends, and at least Hawk is top 10 in that position. I don't think Chauncey is. I
think a contender will pay for him for the second half of the season.
I think he'd attract a second-round pick.
Oh.
He's got major attitude issues.
But on the flip, if we're going really well and TJ Hawkinson is going lights out, and he's trending towards him wanting $16, $17 million a year. I trade him when his value is hot as well. Like I say, I'm getting to the point where if he's doing really well, I just don't want to pay him because I know Darren Waller has just got the deal. The tight end market is refreshing every 3 weeks, and it's getting towards that point where like I don't want to do it. TJ's not Mark Andrews, and he's going to want Mark Andrews' money. I just think it's heading that way, and it's getting a little bit too spicy for me.
It's too rich for my blood. Right, final question from Martin Ott in the YouTube chat. He says, "Hi guys, American here, moving to Lisbon eventually. Good luck with the move. Question: do the player injuries concern you? We are carrying a few players on the roster who may not be able to play. The guys on the injury list at the moment: wide receiver, first round pick Jameson Williams on the NFI list, fullback Jason Kaminda on the PUP, as is edge Romeo Okwara and Josh Pascal, cornerback Jerry Jacobs, and then Greg Bell, the running back, is on season-ending IR. Ant."
Sorry, I was just going to say we've got a new player. We've signed somebody just before we answered that.
Safety?
Well, I'll say it.
No, we got offensive line. Drew Forbes from the Browns. Don't know if he's a tackle or a guard.
Who?
Drew Forbes
Who?
from the Browns. Anyone? Riz will know. Riz is a Browns guy.
Romeo Okwara worries me. I don't think he's ever going to be the same again. And I do not think we're going to get back any of that investment on that new deal, unfortunately. I just don't think it's written in the stars. And that just pains me to say because it's just another time that shit has just happened to us when we've just invested in a guy.
Yeah, injuries definitely worry me. Like guys like Jameson, I'm not worried about, but Levi, it's really hurt him so far. If he continues to obviously stunt his development, Pascal, let's see. Less worried about that one, but yeah, all of these guys, it's Romeo being the obvious one. It's just really concerning.
I'm worried. I think, if Levi has another season like last year, you couldn't get rid early. I'm at a zero tolerance policy when it comes to injuries now. We tried it with Deshaun Hand. We waited 4 years for him to get healthy, and he never did. Wasting roster spots, wasting money. You've got to go hardcore on these guys now. If Levi's not fit, get rid. Romeo, I agree. If he's not back before the bye, he's trending not to. I would do my best to try and trade him, and if I couldn't, then I'd take the cap hit this year and cut him, because we just cannot afford to wait for these guys to get healthy anymore. If we want to make progress forward as a team and start threatening the playoffs next year, we can't afford to have our cap wrapped up in injured players, and we can't afford to have the roster waiting for these guys to get fit. So if it's 2 years and more, you're struggling, you're gone.
Def Jam Rizza says, as a first-time viewer on Twitch, I don't have any doubt that we will be in this Eagles game. We were missing our starting left tackle and centre. No Jamal Williams, Khalif Raymond and Benson were our starting wide receivers. True, this new guy, Drew Forbes, he was drafted in round 6 of the 2019 NFL draft by the Cleveland Browns. He was drafted under GM John Dorsey, and he was drafted to be a starting offensive lineman at the guard position. It's strange how we were talking about the fact that we have 2 backup guards that we are quite high on, and we have just been awarded one via waivers. This makes no sense.
Someone's injured.
That we haven't revealed that yet.
We had a spare spot, didn't we?
No spare spot. Someone's gone, but we don't know who it is. So,
how much would it hurt us if we got rid of Okwara? Does anyone know the cap hit? How much?
Oh no!
It's got to hurt.
No.
Whoa! Vitai's gone on IR.
Oh shit!
Oh fuck off!
God,
excuse my language.
That's
what the hell's happened to him?
He was carrying a slight injury. I did hear that, but he was expected to be fine. It must be more serious than we thought. So that must mean that either Logan Stenberg
Can we not have
Tommy Kramer's going to start.
Why can't we have a fully fit offensive line for one snap? Just one snap. We've not even had them for a snap. And now we've not got them for another month.
I mean, vindicated that we did actually keep those 2 interior guys, though, because we feel better about them now. It's just...
That's why.
I think Kramer and Stenberg can both start, potentially. So you've still got 2 guys there. But, I mean, I guess it's depth battle.
Yeah. Right, we can talk about that more on Thursday. We're going to wrap there. Our
Cut.
Thursday.
It's time to cut.
It's time to
And
cut.
look at Steve, so dejected.
Yeah. Thursday, September 8th, Eagles at Lions preview show. We will have with us the British and Irish Eagles. If you want to understand about the Eagles and what they are going to bring to that game, if you trust us that we know about the Lions, we've spoken to these guys during draft day the last 2 years. They know their stuff. You need to go and listen to that show. 7:30 UK time, 2:30 Eastern on Thursday. Roar the Lions College Football Podcast Week 1 review show coming Wednesday, lads?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
there was a fantastic stat I saw about this week just gone. Can I find it again? I think I know what it is from memory. It's the first week in oh god, it's the first week in the top tier of college football where a team has lost scoring 60 points and a team has also won by scoring less than 7 or scoring 7 or less. See, it's the first week ever that that's happened, which is just nuts. So there we go. A lot to talk about. You'll want to go and check the boys out on Wednesday. Just to go through our socials, please do follow us wherever you can. Would really appreciate the support on Roar the Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The group for worldwide fans on Facebook is Detroit Lions Fans UK 1 Pride Worldwide. You can hit us on the web at roarofthelionsuk.com. I just dropped an article myself about what the cuts and who the cuts are and who's been kept, what it means for what the vision is for this team going forward from the front office perspective. So do go and check that out. Just remains for me to thank my co-hosts, Steve and Tom. Ryan, I'm Matthew Turner. We'll see you on Wednesday for College Show, Thursday for the Eagles preview. Let's go Lions, one pride.
Hate this season already.